Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th Abington Finance Committee meeting. We are wrapping up our meetings with department heads tonight. We will go over the budget with the town accountant and the town manager. Then we will meet with the South Shore Vocational and Technical School District. We will meet with the town manager's office and our treasurer collector. Then we will do our normal course of events of liaison reports, correspondence, sneak preview, there's no correspondence, and reviewing of minutes. Also sneak preview, we have no minutes to review. We'll discuss our next meeting, which is next Wednesday, the 18th, and then we will conclude the meeting unless anything else gets brought up last week. So without further ado, we'll get an update on the budget from the town manager and the town accountant.
Excellent. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to report that the school committee had taken their vote last night. Their actual overall number that they're going to need come in about $144,000 lower than anticipated. So their level funded budget all in would be $32,594,265. And their level service budget would be $34,216,379, which the variant there, what they'll be asking in the override is $1,622,114, so about $144,000 lower.
Last week we were
Yeah.
over $1,750,000, so it's improvement.
It is. We continue, Andrew's working on putting the capital numbers together, working on I've been working with the clerk. I'm going to be sending her the questions for the override so she can get the ballots ready to go, and people will be voting so that they can come in and vote both for the town election and for the override, so they don't have to come back a second time. So we're working on that, and I did a cable show to start talking about. We want to make sure we get as much information out there. I was on WATD with Kevin Tauci on Monday night, and I'm going to be starting a week from Friday. I'm going to be starting with the schools. I have to reach out to schools, fire, police, and DPW to start talking about them, doing little short segments, really to get into what the impact is if the override doesn't pass, what kind of challenges that will present for those departments, and we'll get that up, so that will just be something else for people to check in and look. And we're going to, I met with our social media person that does our website, and we're going to have a dedicated spot once again with all of the information that folks will need for town meeting, what the impact is of those cuts that will be spelled out clear and concisely in a chart. Andrew put together the calculator so people can figure out how that would affect their personal tax increase. So we're going to continue to educate folks.
For those watching, where is the calculator?
It's on, if you go to the town accountant's website, you'll see it right there. It will ask you some questions, you fill in the information, and you'll be able to it's very similar to, I wasn't here, but when they did the debt exclusion, very, very similar to the debt exclusion.
Are we any further along with solidifying numbers?
It's much closer this week than it was last week. No major changes. We've entered the enterprise reimbursements. We have updated the debt. Debt is still not final. We're waiting for a little bit of a better estimate, but we'll have that soon. What's in there now is close. We also updated the unemployment figures. I'm going to walk you through my little model.
You're actually
I'm not speaking as an actuary. Don't want the society to get angry with me.
However,
I was going to report you with your.
you're amateur.
I forget which precepts those are. Anyway, so as we spoke last week, basically what we're doing is we're taking the distribution of all unemployment claims and basically trying to figure out, our census of possible layoffs.
Right. How much
Like, how
work
long
left.
will those claims last? So I ran that through and came up with two useful numbers. One is the max benefit. So that's the maximum benefit that we're on the hook for. If everyone was on unemployment for the entire time, we'd owe them $465K. The good news is that if we apply this model, a lot of people do find work before the, entire period is up. If we apply those estimates to the benefit, it's about $272K that we're on the hook for, a reasonable guess. If we take the health insurance savings from the plans that they're on, that's about $189K. So we need to come up with $82K worth of funding to get to that reserve level. As far as what's uncovered, so the difference between the reserve and the max benefit, that's about $192K. And we already have an unemployment reserve, which we voted that 2 town meetings ago, I believe. And there's about $106K in that. So worst case scenario, we'll be facing an $80K deficit. Like, that's if everyone stays on unemployment for the entire time. But I don't think that's very likely. So, while health insurance does cover,
Do we get a
Yeah,
stamp of approval on that?
Absolutely. This sounds like a
yeah, it's
well thought through. It helps a lot. And this is because the town is self-insured for unemployment.
right. We do pay all those costs ourselves.
Yes, yeah.
How important is it to maintain a budget in that unemployment account?
These are, you could consider them fixed costs. They're mandated. So we will have to run a deficit if it does go south, basically.
Right, but you said a couple town meetings ago, we voted on, you said the 100,000?
Yes.
How important moving forward is it? Because if we use the whole 100,000, that will then be gone. How important is it that for future, we have budget allocated
Until we have
another situation?
another set of layoffs, it's okay. It would be ideal to reestablish that savings as soon as possible, though.
Yeah.
Can you repeat what the 106 number is?
Right, so 106,000 is the unemployment reserve that we have right now.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's like the stabilization fund. We don't need a vote to tap into it. It's just there in case unemployment claims are unexpectedly high.
So what's in this level funded budget? How much did you put in there for this unemployment?
I can go to that. Hold on 1 second.
Roughly, which one of those numbers is what I've,
Oh, I put in the recommended reserve.
okay.
So we
So
add to
Oh,
this
so,
every year.
so we would be putting money back into it.
So there's 2 buckets of money. There's a line item in the budget that we use for what we expect to be paid out that year in unemployment claims. And then there's an emergency reserve of $106K in case we experience unemployment that's higher than that. So if you take these two, there's $378K worth of unemployment that's available next year if this budget goes through. Compare that to the max benefit, there's a bit of a shortfall,
Yeah.
but it's a reasonable estimate. One thing I will say about these numbers is that I used BLS data, and that's for all unemployment claims. So this number is, I think, a little conservative, actually, because the people that are in question are highly trained and highly skilled. So if there's jobs available, it shouldn't be difficult for them to find work.
The concern is Abington is not remotely the only town in this kind of situation, so the number of new jobs available
That's true.
is not necessarily as high as it would otherwise be. So, other questions on this? What about things like health insurance and?
As far as health insurance, we're in there at the 8% that are, that we were quoted. It's not final until the end of the month. You know when the vote is? The 30th. So we'll know then. Hopefully it won't change.
How possible is that could change?
I don't see it changing.
I did hear about a town nearby that it changed town council. So I was just wondering.
It's, if I may, it's really based on the different companies, so, like Maya, is, you know, I'm hearing from Maya that some of their rates are going up. They were like double digits last year, probably double digits. It's the GPL drug, you know, Blue Cross, it was putting a real, you know, for people taking GPL drugs that are not a diabetic, you know, they were getting, you know, the insurance to cover it. And that was bankrupting a lot of them. So that's what's driving the challenge for a lot of the healthcare. So a lot of healthcare now is putting big restrictions to try to save their bottom line by not, if people want it, that's fine, they'll have to pay out of pocket, but it wouldn't be a covered benefit, so. And I'm hearing even like the state health insurance will be in like double digits, so. Our insurance, I forget the name of the company, I'm not as familiar, but
Our broker is NFP.
NFP and then Mayflower, you know, they're probably gonna be about the most stable and the lowest around.
Can you use the self-insure?
Yes.
Can we stop doing that?
It's very risky to do it by ourselves. We actually were lucky that we got out when we did because the year we went on to MSHG, we had a bad claim year. So it was fortunate that we moved at that time.
Yeah, so we were part of Mayflower. We pulled out of Mayflower because their rates were going up like between 12 and 15% a year for a stretch. And we thought that we could do better self-insured. We did better for a while, but it was trending in the wrong direction. We went back in to, we just said it was NFP.
We're still in Mass Strategic Health Group.
Okay, Mass Strategic Health. Because I know when we were self, I think we were alone for like 1 year, and then we kind of started pulling some other towns that were doing the same thing.
Correct. So it started out with about 3 towns, went up to
Yep.
about 22 towns within the group, and then now we're back up to 17 towns.
So,
Sorry, why did those other 5 get out?
Truthfully,
Yeah.
their claims were exorbitant, and quite frankly, they just pulled out. They are in the process of paying back the trust over the last 2 years.
So they got kicked out or they both?
Yeah, they can't hear
Okay.
what Kate was saying.
Okay.
Lindsay,
Wouldn't they have,
do you want to come up to the,
wouldn't they have wanted to stay in?
Sorry.
If they,
Sorry, I steered her wrong. I thought something was okay.
Yes, so at one time they did want to stay in, but when claims started to increase, they started shopping around and they thought they could get essentially a better deal, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So maybe they did get a better deal, but they left money on the table. The trust was essentially left to pay their bills. So there has been a couple legal matters where we have been trying to collect those funds over the last couple of years. So they are finally paying up, which is great for the trust.
they have to pay the legal bills too?
Yes. Started out with a liability of about 3 million, that has significantly increased over the last several years. So having, several towns pull out and kind of being stuck with the bills was kind of detrimental to the trust, but it is on the up and up. Well,
thanks, Lindsay.
you're welcome.
Other questions on that? Other questions on the general update on the budget? We do have a handout. on it. I am a little confused on, oh, never mind, sorry. I got confused because the handout, it looked like the revenue estimates changed between the level funded and level service, but that's FY '26 and FY '27. I was carrying the columns down all the way. I was like, why is there different income for level service versus level funded? There isn't.
So I did have a question on the override piece. You listed it by department, all the departments, but then when it gets on the ballot, there's some consolidation?
Yes.
There's only gonna, so like town falls in one category, yes. Police are in their own category, fire's in their own, schools in their own.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So I think a question that people ask are which departments will be consolidated.
I can put the description here, but in general, it's what's displayed on
It's
this.
right there, yeah.
Yes. Instead of town hall, it's everything else.
Yeah.
Other questions on the draft of the override amounts?
Yeah, I mean, like, just even the town accountant, the recreation, like, why are we putting those in there? Planning, those aren't adding up to anything.
Well,
Why, like,
when we started the budget process, is everyone gets level funded.
Yep.
I went through that exercise,
Yep.
so I was able to find some expenses that we could cut. It's part of the process.
but like the town accountant's still gonna have training, correct? Or
Less
are we
training.
not? Yeah, less training, but that's what I'm saying, it's not, sorry. When we explain these things to people, or whoever's gonna be up there doing it, are they going to say that, like, because I'm assuming somebody's gonna ask, maybe they're not, but like, it looks like the town accountant will not be trained. That's if I were to just pick this up and say, wow, this stinks. The town accountant's not gonna get any training on auditing, which we probably need.
Right. I see your point. I think it's important to focus on the large dollar amounts,
Yes,
not $6,000 doesn't do much.
And I
but
think
it
that's what
helps.
Greg is.
that's exactly what, sorry, that's
Right.
exactly what I'm saying. Sorry, I probably should have been more clear. Like, I just assume, and again, I'm not trying to pick on anything, so I'm assuming there are bigger things that we could take out than
So Greg
supplies
is,
and advertising
so-
for the planning board of $1,730.
So Greg, is your question?
You know what I mean? And I know, I'm not saying you're not doing a good job of finding it.
Yeah,
I'm saying
no.
you are, it's just,
So Mike, what I'm wondering is your question, why not just cut that even from the level service budget?
yeah, I mean, if we're saying we
Why-
don't need
Why
this,
put those in for the override?
correct.
Like, obviously, we know police, we know schools, the bigger ones that we've talked about, the various impacts. We're expecting to go for an override for those, and there's a very clear case to be made for those overrides. Is there a clear case to be made for planning department supplies and advertising?
That's what I mean, yeah. He's so much more eloquent. I'm just like,
Hardly.
and also an explanation I think would be good, like when they are doing this, because there's plenty of things that we were explaining, like 30 teachers, you're going to have less, you're going to have more students per teacher. That's an explanation that we're going to get at whenever this, I forget what date it is, but whenever they get up and talk. But like here, the supplies and advertising. I'm just trying to think of the explanation.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, police are gonna you're not gonna have 7 admin, 3 part-time, or whatever PT is, and 6 officers. People can like understand, like, all right, we're gonna have less officers, yeah, it's gonna be, less, it's not gonna be as safe.
I think, but that's.
Struggling with a wide format scanner for inspectional services. You know?
So is that a quick question on that? Is that a replacement scanner? Because I believe we have
There,
the wide
We have
format.
we have the narrow format scanner.
I believe it's maintenance and supply costs.
Yeah. So Greg, we've talked in the past about
Yeah.
the wide format scanner. It's because you have all kinds of like
Yes.
prints and documents
Yeah.
that a regular scanner does not fit. So in the efforts to digitize and up and bring the building department into the 21st century, that has been a big plus for them.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to further talk about that, so the real question is why are those small dollar amounts listed out? Because I think people have a right to know what the actual effect will be. So when you're looking at, so for instance, like a lot of this is grouped under town hall, the IT person.
Yeah.
Right now, we have Wayne that runs around crazily, because, it was in the budget to have another person. Like, more than likely, we won't get that person, but there'll be effects, library materials, it's not going to affect their budget. Library's somewhat different than most of all of our other departments because they get state aid and the Friends do a phenomenal job of raising money for them, so they, more than likely will be able to absorb that. But in planning, when it's supplies and advertising, it's just, everyone's had their budgets cut. So supplies, advertising for different, advertising's big in the media for, public hearings and things like that. So that would have to be watched. To Greg's point, it's, much easier. And we'll have a, better explanation. We'll get into the weeds on what this stuff is. But, when it's training, the accountant will go out and get her certification. There won't be any training for the other employees. We offer that for employees if they want it. Not all employees take advantage of it. But, when we have funds, we like people to be trained. There's no effect with the clerk. Treasurer, it's a part-time person. Veterans benefits, no, it's not to say that veterans aren't going to get their benefits, but they probably won't be able to be as aggressive. So people that are getting them now will continue to get them, but as far as the outreach, that could be a problem. Waste disposal, that's something that we pay for, Board of Health. Those are needles that people throw away, medication, things like that. So this was just to give a snapshot so that people could see, with town meeting, we'll have the documents very similar to how the school did theirs.
Emily,
You can go first.
So I agree, like people should know what they're voting on. But they're not voting on the individuals, we're lumping it under town hall. So doesn't that level of detail disappear?
Well, it won't because that's part of the, people ask that question, what's included in that category? And even if they don't ask it, it will be. So in that area of the website, there'll be an explanation for each one of those line items, what's included and what's being cut out, so that people will know very factually what's being affected, what's being lost.
And the thought is it's more likely that town hall as one succeeds in an override vote versus the individuals, or just that the individuals would take too long?
It was just, they put them, I wasn't here at the time, but I think the board's thought was, town hall, everyone in the building, they treat it as one. Police are outside, libraries outside, school departments outside, DPW. They just treated it as one.
I have two things. So will all of this detail be on the actual ballot that people receive when it's time to vote?
No, they'll vote the question, so there'll be a question. Do you support the override in the taxes to give the police department $875,486? That's a yes or no. So we'll say, then, same thing with fire. Do you support an override of your taxes to support fire for 275? School department. Now, people have the opportunity because it's menu, so not everyone can afford everything, but it gives people the opportunity to feel that they have some control over what they can vote for. The data information will be available up on the website probably within a couple of weeks, the real fine details, so the people will be able to go, my goal is to have everything up there for town meeting, including, planning board's gonna have 4 articles, all the maps, so people can look at and have all that detail and have like a month or so to understand it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Do we think some of the smaller minute details will take away from some of the bigger details? Like, I'm just thinking like, this is overwhelming to me.
Well, that's why it's condensed into that.
Okay, like I'm just trying to look at it from all angles. I'm just trying to think like if we're looking at I am not picking on anybody at all, but if we're looking at a 1,700, maybe like, oh well, why are we doing this?
Well, that was Greg's
Yeah.
point, I think.
That's why it's all grouped under town hall. But it would be spelled out. It will say what that $1,730 represents.
Is the actual language of the measure going to be town hall? Oh, maybe that's not decided. I don't know.
I have to look. The questions are all pre-decided. I just have to plug,
Oh,
I just have to plug the dollar amounts in.
Okay.
But it will say, I believe in the town hall one, it spells out the departments.
Chris?
Yeah, I just confirming, at town meeting itself, the town will simply vote on 2 budgets, right? The
Level service and level fund.
level
funded.
service and level
Right.
funded.
And when they vote on the level service,
Yeah,
that comes with the piece of the override. So
Right, that
you'd have to have that was an excellent question, because you would have to have a positive vote at town meeting
Yeah.
to support that. Then, on May, I don't have my count, May 16th, 15th, 14th?
Say 18?
Okay, well, I'll get before we end, just because people, well, I forget. But that second Saturday, when people go to vote on the override, that would have to pass also.
yeah,
May 16th.
May 16th, thank you, Mr. Chair. May 16th, when people go to vote.
yeah, so there's no menu at town meeting. Well, we may show them the menu, but that's.
We'll
not what
show
they're
them-
gonna
We will have that in the educational materials.
Correct.
And
But, right,
it'll be
'cause-
up in,
In the
on
town
the
meeting
website.
section.
It'll be in the handouts that people get at town meeting.
Correct.
It will not be in the wording of the
Right.
article
Okay.
or the motion.
But that's a great question, because when people vote, when they vote for the level service, it incorporates that 3,559,612 in totality.
And if,
And
go ahead.
just real quick, and then you can, what will be voted on first? I assume order of things at town meeting, we will vote on level service. And in the motion for level service, it will detail the funding sources,
Correct.
which will include the general levy, et cetera.
Real
et cetera.
estate taxes, local
And it
receipts,
will
yeah.
also include wording that says an override to the amount of
That is correct. Yeah,
3,417,000.
yeah.
If that does not pass, then we will move on to vote on the level funded budget. If it does pass, we won't vote on the level funded budget. Is that?
That's really that's really a call of the moderator on how
Because I
he would
don't
like to
think,
do it.
I don't think you need to. vote
You
on
probably
the
don't. I
level
mean, some towns do the higher number first. If the higher number prevails, then that's it. But I have not been to Abington Town Meeting, and I
Yeah.
don't know how the moderator treats that, and I certainly don't want to speak on his behalf.
That's my expectation of
Yep.
what it will be, but Emily?
So if the override passes, goes to the ballot, and certain buckets do not pass, it defaults to the level
Level
funded
For
for that.
For that section of the budget.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe an administrative question, but isn't it all in one general fund?
It is all in one general fund. However, the way that we have broken this, the way that the select board chose to break it out in department by department instead of the one number, if it were the one number override and say this is the number that it was, 3,417,769, if we just voted on that one number, that would then be distributed however we broke out in the budget. we still have to break out in the budget that we propose to the town, department by department, line by line. And the way that we are doing it with the menu, we're giving people more specific choices of yes to this, no to that.
Well, I know we're giving people choices. It's more about after that. They've made their choice.
So that.
It's all coming from one
They've made
account.
their choice, and what is happening in that is the funding source for the individual, essentially for the individual line items.
I think it just, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
just to make it clearer, so let's assume town meeting doesn't pass. So the cuts associated with town meeting, then those would be exacted to those departments. Because the money's not there, so it'll be,
So I think Emily's
I just
question
want to make
is,
sure we're following through.
I think Emily's question is more, say we go to the ballot and schools, police, and fire pass, but nothing else passes. Is there anything, because it's, the override is going to the general fund, is there anything preventing us after that vote from distributing it differently?
well, it'd be disingenuous, first
It
of all.
would
I wouldn't be
certainly
a
be
part of that.
disingenuous, but I
I
think
could never
that's-
do that because
but I
the
think
voters
that is the
voted a
question,
certain way.
right?
I mean, look, when you,
Yeah.
all right, I'll go to Andrew, but
But-
think about, you own a household budget and like sometimes you move money from one place to another, but no one's looking at you.
Municipal finance isn't like that.
No, exactly. But so that's what I'm just confirming because I've had a couple people outside of this
Yeah.
committee ask
So
that question.
That override funding would be locked into that department.
Oh, it would be,
In a
okay.
normal year, just hide these columns for a minute. It's less level funded, just pretend it's not. What we vote on are salaries and expenses for each department, and that's the total amount of money that they get. That's it. They can't spend over that, and any transfers requires a vote of the select board and FinCom at the end of the year. So if we have a deficit, it gets covered.
Which is what we did in late June, early July.
Right.
This past year, we moved money within, like, from one place to another where it was necessary to balance
Sure.
the budget at the end of the year. Which is like you were talking about the stuff, but as Andrew is pointing out, it's more complicated for the town than it is for your family budget.
Well, of
Where you
course, yeah.
can't just be like, well, I was gonna use this money for groceries, but I'm gonna use it to go out to dinner instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Town can't just do that. There has to be
It has to
votes,
stay in the
votes and
buckets.
approval.
Yeah.
When we vote on the budget, when the town meeting votes on the budget, they vote on every line of that budget.
Yep.
They're not just voting on the bottom line,
Right.
which is what Andrew is saying.
The
And that's,
And the thing that I didn't
which
know,
nobody, I think, understands when they vote, but that's what they're doing.
the thing that I wasn't sure of, sorry, Abby.
Sorry.
The thing I wasn't sure of was what Andrew just said, where with the menu style override, it's tied to the specific department's line
Right.
items.
So for the
And
school,
it doesn't just go into the general fund, and you can
Okay.
do whatever with it.
yeah, you're not just voting on the override, you're tying it directly to the budget for each
Right.
department.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that wasn't theoretical.
Yeah, it's,
Abby.
it's
But like, so you know how we have people like with the trash overrides from years past and how then the next year it goes on, that won't be tied to that next year or whatever. Then it will be back to the general fund, that increase.
So the way that it works is this, for the FY '27 budget, we have laid out as the finance committee, as the town manager and accountant, as the select board, we've laid out these amounts of money go to these lines. If there's an override that is brought in that's tied to that, the money goes to the general fund, but is tied to the specific line items. We are not required to fund the line items the same year after year.
Okay, so even though it's
So-
a menu, that still stays the same going
Yes.
forward? Okay.
Right.
So if, say, for example, we'll pick one at random, DPW, if we pass the override for DPW, that money is not allocated to DPW every year perpetually.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly.
It is part of, it becomes part of the general levy.
Okay,
Which is, as we learned last year at town meeting, the public doesn't understand that either.
yes.
Some people in government don't understand it either, yes.
I wanted to make sure everyone had that information as well.
But we are adding to the levies, I didn't mean to, if I may, we are adding to the levy, so that's there every year, but it's not there every year for the police department.
Right.
It's just for the capacity piece. Correct.
The bottom line levy increases the specific year it's tied to these specific departments. Good questions. Greg, what you got?
I mean, somebody asked me the other day, what happens in 28? Where do they get the numbers to go off of in 28?
So
I didn't really feel like explaining.
So if you look, Andrew, do you want to put the overview sheet up so that people looking? So we have right there in general revenue fund estimates, the bottom two lines, now you can leave it right where it is on the screen. Nope, up. There you go. So the first two lines underneath the blue, the PY levy limit,
Yeah.
that's the limit that of what we are allowed to take in real estate taxes, both
2.5%.
Yeah.
both residential, industrial, and commercial.
In person.
The 2.5 adjustment is the maximum amount that we can raise that by from year to year.
Yeah.
It cannot go up by more than 2.5. If we vote an override, that levy limit increases by the amount of the override. So right now on the screen it says 47,19,242. If we override by $3 million, that becomes 43,719,242, which next year for FY '28, we can do 2.5% over that.
Right.
So it increases the amount year after year.
Well, this year increases the amount to get us to those.
Yes.
So it's not like it's just this
But
one year.
it's not a 1 year thing. It
Right.
continues to be an increase.
I just told him we'll never go down. That's all I said.
That's correct.
And so I didn't have time.
That is in fact correct.
Correct, that's very factual, yeah.
What'd you say, Greg? I didn't hear.
I said it will never go down.
Yeah.
The debt exclusions will, once the debt's paid off.
Yep.
We'll take out more debt.
Is it a fair question to ask if you do an override 1 year, is it possible you have to do another the next year?
Certainly possible, yes.
Yes. I mean, we are looking to spend almost $3 million of free cash just to balance the budget. That's money that's not going to be there next year. If you- The override really should be 6.3 million because we shouldn't be using the free cash. We're not asking for 6.3 million. We're just trying to get through to 2032, 2031 as best as we can.
32.
I know that's been something I've been seeing on social media, is if we approve this one, what's next year gonna look like?
And
It's a very solid question.
does the calculator for what the override does that take into account taxes right now? Or taxes when some of these debt exclusions start coming on?
It's a snapshot of what is in effect right now.
Okay.
It's actually run by the state, so they have all our financial data.
Okay.
That's up to date as far as FY '26 goes.
You just have to make the assumption that it will. Like the school was here last week, right? They said how many schools are in rough shape?
I think all but the new one.
Right. So like it's never going to end, or at least as long as it's not going to end. So.
I mean, it's like if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's like your household, so we're
Yes.
responsible. Roofs have to be replaced every 20 to 25 years. Bathrooms have to be replaced, floors, all of that, and it is never ending.
I think I was asking more about the things we already agreed to.
So like the
Like the
middle
fire
high school, the
station.
fire station.
Yeah,
DPW,
those things.
those things are already factored in.
Right,
Yes.
yes, those are
Okay.
already in.
Other questions? We've had a lot. They've been good. Chris?
I have a question, but I was asked by a neighbor.
That's allowed.
Yeah, a neighbor told me. For the trash, I know it was an issue last year. This year, we're not talking about it at all.
No, it's not. I mean, people keep bringing that up, and to be clear, yeah, it's not in this budget. It's business as usual. It's not going to be segregated out.
There's
and
no,
repay it.
that it is not being brought forward
That is
to
correct.
make trash
Yeah. I was just-
fee-based again.
Yeah, I think the question I was asked was, why were we searching for money last year, but now we're not for trash?
We're asking for an override.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I ended up saying.
I believe someone at town meeting was
Right.
of the opinion.
And that field, that question failed, so what, we wouldn't bring that back. I mean, if just voters were pretty, I
so
wasn't
we,
here, but it was
we
pretty.
we have
adamant.
raised, the question was raised early on in the budget process of, it was a fairly close vote on the fee last year. With the need for override this year, would it perhaps be more palatable to people to take trash out and pay a fee for trash rather than including that as part of the budget and override? But the appetite of both the previous town manager and the select board at the time was that they felt that it would not be received well putting it on again, and so they decided not to move forward with that as an article this year.
Yep.
But it's still all the same money, right?
Well,
Yes, and
it's-
I mean, like, it's just-
Yes and no.
if trash is moved into a fee-based, each person would pay a separate fee for trash.
Yeah.
So
I just mean if it's taken out of the,
it's taken, if it's in that instance, it would be taken out of the general fund. And so say trash was what, 1.4 million,
Yeah.
something to that effect? We're looking at using 2.9 million of free cash. We might be looking at using 1.5 million of free cash instead to balance the level funded budget and have that 1.5 million to pay for things like snow and ice removal.
Right.
And perhaps make the overall override number lower. But that would be if that passed at town meeting. And as was pointed out last year, as has been pointed out in the argument for not going to the fee, it's still, like, you're still taking the same amount of money. So,
Yeah.
Who made the decision, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just, you mentioned really the override should be, you said really the override should be 6 million. Who made the decision to use all our free cash to balance the level funded budget rather than making the level funded budget a little lower, more realistic, and only using half the free cash?
I think it was a consensus.
Okay,
If you go out for a $6.3 million override, that's
okay.
that's really
I'm not
pricey.
saying, like I said, I don't
It
know
had to
what
be
the right answer is.
palatable. It had to at least be realistic and palatable. And, I think the taxpayers wanted us to take a really hard look at where we could make cuts, just like you would at your house. You have to go through and what can you live without?
Okay, all right. And eventually it's gonna happen anyway, so take it all at once and then worry about it next year.
The closer we get to 2031, 2032, the better.
Yes, yep, okay. Good, thank you. That's.
and if we get to a point in the overall economy where growth is outpacing inflation, that would be nice.
That would be a positive effect on our budget, yes.
There have been years like that in the
Yes.
past. We have not seen them.
You're very optimistic, Mr.
Recently?
We have
Chair.
not seen them in a while.
No,
But there have been years like that, the mid
Yeah.
like 20,
Once again-
late 2010s.
That's,
And I'll add, spending isn't outpacing inflation too,
Correct.
which it has been.
Correct.
we did take in, state of Massachusetts, once again, did take in an extra 8%.
That was last year.
Yes,
2027, it's 2.25%.
I know, but it's gonna be worse.
As we have
You know what I
discussed,
mean? Like, it's
as
not-
we've
it's-
discussed previously, the state has its own priorities.
Yeah.
What
So-
it is doing with money. The town of Abington is not high on that list.
Yeah,
We're first alphabetically.
We
yeah.
are.
Yeah, should get us some extra.
Other questions? Realistically, how much of that 2.9 can we expect to decrease over the time between now and town meeting? I know we are generally conservative with our estimating, and that number usually decreases as we get closer to time to actually vote on the budget.
I don't see it changing significantly. There's a couple articles that we need to, hash through, but I don't see any major changes.
So what does that mean?
This is close to final, and of course it has to be because the ballot deadline is very soon.
Yeah. So we have to vote on the ballot numbers in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
So
2
next
weeks, the 25th.
I think the 23rd was the deadline, so next meeting
Okay.
would be
so
the
next
18th.
week.
So before the numbers are actually final.
Yes. We have to vote on the ballot numbers next week.
I love that.
Yeah, big fan. As we discussed recently, we pushed to move town meeting later in the year instead of the start of April so that we would have more finalized numbers and a better idea of the actual numbers of the budget before we had to vote on it. And the override deadline took away the time that we saved by pushing town meeting further out. So we're right where we were last year. Good questions. Other questions? All right. Much later than expected, let us invite the South Shore Vocational Technical School
Sorry.
up to the podium or table.
No apologies necessary. Good evening,
Tom, welcome.
Matt,
Thank you for coming.
the chair, members of the committee. Your representative to our regional school committee, Tom Petrozelli, joins me thanks for rescheduling us. and-
Absolutely. We
And putting us on
understand.
at this point in the process. If I could just start, have very informative discussion you just had, I'll just punctuate a couple things. We're in Mayflower, and we just voted today a 10% increase, just for comparison, as you were talking about health insurance. And Abington's already approved the debt exclusion for our building project. What I'll say later, I'll go through this at a quick pace, but any potential interest in FY '27, we're again going to be able to absorb that. So there'll be no additional debt share. It's not a huge amount, but we did that for '26 and '27 as well. So just a couple of highlights based on what your priorities were in your last conversation. Andrew, thanks for putting this up here. So I'm going to walk through budget, building project, and then there's a warrant article regarding the potential admission of the town of Pembroke. I'd like to just make you aware of that as well. That'll be coming up. Thank you. So this is I was doing the math. This is my 15th budget bringing to you. And I try to frame these presentations roughly the same way. I'll hit a couple of brag sheets of things that we've been working on and our engagement with the communities, talk about unpacking the budget, the assessments, let you know what we do when we get entitlement grants, and then end with those other two non-budgetary items, the building project and Pembroke. So our enrollment is, you've heard me say this for years, we're really at capacity. We're going to have a building that, once our towns can afford to expand an operating budget, we'll be able to add at least another 200 seats. But as I've said to many of our strongest allies, this will not happen overnight. But for now, we're clocking in about 688 students. We have a 2-to-1 ratio for applicants to available seats. We're hoping to bump the freshman class number to 200. The current eighth graders were participated for the first time in an admissions lottery this year. You may have picked that up in the media, that the state has mandated that we admit students by lottery. That's caused a lot of consternation. I'll stop the editorializing at that point. But so I appreciate their families' patience as waiting lists were essentially determined by random selection. Co-op continues to be a hallmark of our school, sending a lot of students out to work middle of their junior year or senior year. We've done very well at state and national competitions, and our biggest flex of the year is the national gold medal winner at Future Farmers of America for nursery landscape, coming from our now 8 or 9-year-old horticultural landscape program. So we're real proud of the kids and the teachers there, plus some other headliners as well. And we've been doing quite well, continue to do quite well with competitive grants, which, especially the CTI grant, which allows us to use money for capital items. So I very rarely I can't think of really the last time that I've had to bring a capital item baked in, because we bake in everything to one number, but we don't have to bring those capital items forward. The only capital items new school set aside that you'll see from me for the foreseeable future will be school bus purchases. And there's a little money, there's about 110 grand in capital within this whole number, so that we can maintain and we have a long-range capital plan for replacing our bus fleet. But that's what I see with us staying on top of getting some solid adult ed grants. And I'm pretty proud of this fire cadet program, so kudos to the area fire chiefs. You've heard me say this before. This is what a great example of partnerships where the fire chiefs wanted to help high school age students from around our region, not just our school, explore what the fire service might include. So they teach the kids, it's free. We got, Senator Keenan's been instrumental in making sure we get some money in the state budget, and so that program continues to flourish. Thanks, Andrew.
Quick question on the,
Greg, sure.
so before the lottery, how were kids picked?
We had criteria that included grades, attendance, discipline.
And you're saying the state of Massachusetts said that's not good?
The Board of Education decided that we would be allowed to admit students using a weighted lottery where you earned certain weights, but ultimately all of the Abington applicants, and there were 58, went into a computerized bucket.
Yeah.
And we apportioned seats based on the size of eighth grade population. And so there were ultimately, as it stands today, there were 25 admitted Abington rising freshmen. Those students were admitted because their numbers were pulled randomly.
Were there kids who had better scores and better whatever
We
that
weren't-
didn't get in?
We weren't allowed to collect any information.
Oh, that is bananas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean.
No, well, what he said. Okay. And the next two slides are just showing folks once again that we truly value in municipal partnerships, and we've done work in all of our communities, and I'd invite our friends in our towns from youth sports and CPC and historical commissions and projects that we could still engage with so many of our programs. Keep us in mind, continue to keep us in mind, because the kids love it, teachers love it, it's part of our curriculum, and getting them off campus or having them do work on campus continues to be another jewel in the crown for us. So thank you for that, Andrew. And after that, I'll pivot into the budget. We build our budgets from zero every year. It has allowed me to be able to move scarce dollars around. And again, I think the grants are like with anything else. We're not over-reliant on grants. We try to use it for one-time expenses and not become overly dependent on that for operational costs. But the process has generally worked. This slide shows aggregate enrollment. We're kind of bumping on the ceiling. When the new school opens for the 28-29 school year, I don't see a big radical shift because I can't overpromise seats when I don't have a budget approved the year prior. So it's going to be a slow roll as we get to that point. So I would suggest that these numbers, the We have a total of 695 kids. 7 of them are not from the district. These are probably kiddos by this point that are older, that may have moved out of one of our 9 district towns, but then apply through their new zip code, and then they pay tuition. We collect that tuition and use it to offset our 9-town assessments in the following year. The next slide breaks down enrollment based on the towns. For the years I've been bringing you a budget, it's not magic and it's not intentional, but generally enrollment drives the assessment. So our ask for fiscal '27 is lower, and this is largely because the enrollment is lower. I would tell you now, as I was looking back at some cyclical enrollment data, that I'm guessing that I'll be back in front of you, knock on wood, next year. Abington's number will be trending back upward. As I look at the number of seniors we're graduating, as I look at the number of incoming potential 9th graders and potentially upper class admittance. So that number, I think, will be coming out of that number there. But what that drives for right now is about an assessment ask that's about $85,000 less than last year. The overall budget increase, this is not an eye test. I don't need you to cover your left eye and read the second line, but it's in yellow for a reason. Greg?
Sorry, so do we still have to pay for how many kids we send there?
It's just the kids you're sending, yeah.
No, but like, so, did they think about that when they did the randomized thing? What if about, like?
It's the same number.
Oh, you ask.
The lottery doesn't affect the number of spots that Abington gets
That's
in
right,
the
Matt.
allotment. The lottery affects how the school, who the school is allowed to
So
choose.
each town goes into a lottery?
That's how we were one of the few schools, Greg, up until this. We were one of the few schools that.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Nothing, no, it's
This
a
sounds-
timely topic. I'll try to be concise because this could be a half an hour, but it's, yeah, we actually have been doing apportionment since forever. Most of my colleagues, prior to this lottery arrangement, were doing admissions without regard to zip code. My position has always been, towns need to see a guaranteed return on their investment. So what's your metric for apportioning seats? We used 8th grade population.
Yeah.
So I've seen several of our regional vocational schools now moving to this. So Matt's exactly right. The way we apportion is still within our control. It's a local policy
Okay.
decision. But how those seats get filled moved from criteria-based to lottery. But why would other districts go towards the way we're doing it? For the reasons you were starting to hint at, which is, wait a minute, there's a chance that I could have 12 kids from my town apply and nobody gets in. Like, the bingo ball didn't get pulled.
That's
And that doesn't-
what I was just thinking.
Exactly, especially with under-enrolled, like you get some representation if you're an oversubscribed community, but if you are a community that maybe doesn't send a lot of kids, so imagine what that assessment conversation looks
Right,
like when
right.
nobody's coming. Yeah,
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
A Cohasset, for example.
thank you,
Cohasset would be a perfect example, yes.
thank you.
Sure thing. And any underutilized seats, and you can keep it there, Andrew, thank you, on the next page, sorry. But I'll just end by saying, if there are any seats that are not used, we have historically reapportioned them to, so when I say Abington has 25, Abington actually had a slightly lower apportionment, 21 or 22, but there were some unused seats from some of our communities, and we redistribute them where there's towns that have extra demand. So, more to be said on that. The budget increase is really the yellow line. Why do I have all these numbers up here? Well, the top line, the 10.92, that's me taking every single dollar, including debt, because we're required to calculate the debt, and we're anticipating as we begin to ramp up. Construction will start in June. So I don't want there to be any confusion over the numbers, so I want to call it all out. So the first line is 10.92. An apples to apples operating and capital increase is the yellow line, the 5.98. And then I included a couple of other lower numbers because there's one other, it's not a big headliner, but it's a big headliner for us, is that in building the new school, and we're grateful, and one of the small headaches we're going to deal with for the next 5 years is we'll never have an outdoor home athletic contest because the new school is being built on our athletic fields. So we've got some extraordinary operating costs involving kids being off campus. I said to the school committee, while with no enthusiasm, that we have to take some of the responsibility and develop an athletic user fee model. Many schools have had that for a very long time. We have not. So I'm showing that we've done a great job, I think, of estimating the transportation, the fuel, the fields, rentals, whatever we might need. But we're going to develop a user fee system. I will say that although I've pointed out we have not had an athletic user fee system yet, we have always had a fee system when it comes to students purchasing uniforms and tools and things for their shops. So in terms of fees, yeah, that part of our universe has always existed, but we're going to join the ranks of the majority of secondary schools in some capacity. So, but I also include that in there just to call that out.
And it will stop in 5 years?
I don't think that's realistic, but I would like to. I would like to say that when those extraordinary costs are gone, we'll be able to absorb it. But if all of a sudden adding 200 more kids, well, all of a sudden there's a push for a JV rugby team or something like if we change the variables and expand our athletic offerings, I've got to make sure that it's sustainable, and we'll all see what the world looks like in 5 years. But that's the idea, the extraordinary nature of why. And then when we get to, the building opens in 28, 29, the fields won't be ready. That's 29, 30. Horticulture shop will tell me how long the grass has to germinate on the baseball and softball fields. So, you know, I think when you're, Andrew, when you're popping the cork on the Plymouth County assessments being done, we'll probably say, hey, we're playing softball on Webster Street around the same time, I think. We'll see. The bottom line in green is the ask, which is the 85,882 less. Thanks, Andrew. That number, that big number that I showed you, Abington's assessment, I've shown you this slide in the past. What goes into this number? The minimum local contribution, state set. That's about just under 92% of Abington's assessment. We do assess for capital, so that 110 grand I mentioned for buses, it's a 3-year rolling average of enrollment, so there's a sliver of money in there for that. Then there's transportation costs. We're projecting about 87% reimbursement. That's a decent number. It's been worse, it's been better, but we're going to use that number. So we only assess the difference. If we're wrong, we eat it. If we're right, we get to carry it over for 1 year and use it for the following year's transpo costs, which is a good system. Other operating costs above the minimum, and then there's debt service, which you would have remembered me coming in recent years about the 4-year rolling average. So there is no fixed debt share. That was a very important regional agreement change we made prior to the district-wide vote on the building. Thank you.
Just real
Matt,
quick
sure.
to pause and go back one more slide, just to make sure that it's clear, because you went quickly by it, but it's kind of you're burying the lead.
Wait.
Abington's assessment is $85,882 lower than the previous fiscal year.
Yes, thank you for repeating that.
So
That's right.
so our Abington's spending on our contribution to the South Shore Vocational and Technical School is actually decreasing this year,
department?
like next year compared to this year.
Yes.
So you win the award.
Yes, ticker tape parade 1 year, rotten fruit the next year. I'll be back dodging fruit probably. I think that number will be up. Yeah, so thank you,
But-
Matt, for pointing that out.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody, so.
This is a revenue sheet that just, some of these highlights you probably would have heard from APS and have seen in the media. Chapter 78 is flat. You know, even though our enrollment has increased for the second year in a row, we're getting minimum aid. We're getting $75 a kid. We need to advocate at the very least legislatively that just like the legislature did last year, they took the governor's number and they juiced it up to at least, it was 150 a kid. So we're not using that 150 number, but so my Chapter 70 increase was about $51,000. That's not sustainable over time for any, I don't need to lecture this board on the math around that. Another revenue stream I mentioned.
The cost of a student is 51,000.
No, that's
That's the
688
increase.
times 75. That's what the state is giving us.
What's the cost per student then? Sorry,
No, that's okay. It varies by town.
roughly.
I can, on one of the handouts, I'm reluctant to.
Wouldn't it co-
Abington, 13,796.
It's pretty cheap.
So again, 13,796, and the increase in Chapter 70 money is $75
Yes, that's correct. That's
On-
right. So
on 13,000.
the legislature is studying this. There needs to be some adjustments, and it's not just Voc schools, it's all public schools. Costs are, you already said it during your discussion, what costs are exceeding revenue. The story is the same. We've got a little more money coming in from non-resident tuition. I mentioned about the fourth bullet down. I mentioned about the debt service. We're absorbing that. Again, this is a plan your work your plan thing. For years prior to MSBA inviting us in, we put money away in stabilization, and now we're pushing that money back into the middle. We used it in 26, we're going to use it in 27, and I think we'll have some to push in 28. But there will be debt shares when I come back, in a year when we talk about fiscal 28 debt shares. I'll make sure I point out what we think we can still absorb, and then what would then be passed along, and in Abington would be considered excluded debt. And and the cost drivers at the bottom, it's like, we know. It's the same thing. I'm looking forward. It's a much smaller scale, but I'll enjoy when that Plymouth County retirement number drops off, and that'll be a game changer. Thank you. In terms of personnel, this is a busy slide. This is basically, this is my way of saying that if the retirements and the restructuring fall into place, this is what I'd like to be able to do. But my message to towns is, geez, that seems, at first seems like a lot of growth, but it's, if I can find all the savings plus $43,180, I should be able to do everything that's on this list. The first three bullets are moving existing positions, as I've done for several years with you, moving incrementally off of entitlement grants onto the budget, and then having the opportunity to expand in a few areas that I think we're in need. My message to the school committee and my message to communities is, this list is not a guarantee. This list depends on me using existing dollars. If those factors don't come into play, then this list doesn't materialize. But I do want to always have a plan with that going forward. I can forecast for you at the bottom of this slide that with the new school, again, it all depends on operating, but what I say to folks is, bare minimum, we're opening 2 new shops, vet science and plumbing. I need to put shop teachers in those shops. I've got an idea of how I can back some of those costs into a Perkins grant. And I'm going to need to add custodians and probably a bus driver. Full stop. Like if you ask me if you're going to be asking for more personnel, that has to be top tier. We got to clean the new building. We got to bus a few more kids to and from, and we've got those shops to open. We'll see what the world looks like at that point, and we'll look for other efficiencies. But when we talk about growing the school, I've got to make sure that those essentials are covered before we can talk about expanded enrollment, which would lead to more paraprofessionals and other teachers. And it's a difficult climate, to be talking about expansion at this point. This slide, I've shown you this in the past. It's a reminder that we, as other public school districts, we get entitlement grants as well. The Perkins grant we use for the shops, special ed IDEA, and then Titles 1, 2A, and Title 4. You may have heard APS talk about that. We get dollars for the same reason. So we use a little bit for personnel, professional development, equipment, et cetera. And then line above was just some of the geez, I'm sorry, I owe you a mouse. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. Okay, folks, that's the last slide on the budget. Are you okay if I pivot to the last 2 topics?
Yes.
Any questions first, or? All right.
It would all make sense to me.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
You had me when you said down 85?
Yeah.
I could be Charlie Brown's teacher for the rest of this talk, right? Yeah. So shovel goes in the ground. Shovel goes in the ground in June. We do some bidding in the spring. We begin our two-year extravaganza, and we'll open for 28, 29. I'd encourage questions. I'd invite folks to take a look at the project website. How we borrow this money, this is something that I've said to our town leadership, our financial leaders. We're doing short-term, Unibank has given us a model of doing some short-term borrowing and then converting over to bonds in fiscal 29. That is not required. We could bond earlier. But the message from when we started to ask our towns to support this project is, we don't have the luxury, nor should we, of sit in a bubble because we're our own entity and make pretty big decisions about when we're going to bond something and when to push principal and interest costs onto the towns. So the commitment continues to be that as we inch closer, so fiscal 28 would be the earliest fiscal year that we could potentially bond some of the debt. Or do we kick the can another year and keep it interest only? In fiscal 27 is when I want us, our school board, to have conversations with our towns to really get a sense of what's the financial temperature on Main Street? Level payments is more interest, right? It's more interest over the term, but it could be more palatable at a time where there's a perfect storm of other financial issues. I don't claim to be an expert on what each of our towns is looking for, but ultimately, any regional entity would have to make a decision. I just want it to be the most informed decision.
What's the interest for 1 year?
We're
If you were
projecting,
to do that,
the projections we're doing are looking at maybe in the threes.
so you would pay, whatever this is gonna cost, you would pay an extra 3 million if you did that, what you just said.
3% interest. So the first few years would be interest only, and it's really a question of, I want to hear the competing philosophies over, boy, you're paying just interest, maybe you should start paying down the principal, because, the taxpayers of 2055 will say, that makes sense. Others will say, excuse me, 2055.
Is it adjustable, will it be an adjustable rate?
No, when we bond it, the rate, my understanding is the rate would be fixed. So we want to get real deep feedback from our communities before we make that. But for now, I would say for fiscals 26 and 27, it's bond anticipation notes, interest only, we're covering the interest. And then my hope is we'll be back, even prior to me coming back next winter, we would be having conversations in advance. So much more to be said on that. But that, just to be clear, we have a plan, but it's just version 1.0 of how we might roll this on. It's going to be very important with our communities looking at overrides and existing debt. We want to be very sensitive to that and again, not say, hey, why didn't you ask us our opinion? Because you're looking at a granular level of what this community is being asked to do. But we want to try to make sense of it.
First couple of years, you are doing interest only?
Correct, yes.
And people said, yeah, they wanted to do that?
We haven't directly asked because everything I'm hearing is that that's a standard process for as you're getting the project underway. But once it's the debatable point when you get to about fiscal 28, where you have enough that you've borrowed that if the market looks good, there's an argument to be made. So in my conversations with our financial advisors at Unibank, they said the pro is you could bond earlier and amortize it over a longer period of time. Okay, I understand that. And that might be the best way to go.
So the pro is Unibank makes more money.
I suppose that might be part of it too, yeah. But they do look at the bottom line, and it's really, what would our district in the aggregate say is the better move bottom line? If these numbers are too big for us to just send you a note, because what's going to happen is we make a decision, pass it along to you, maybe it's already excluded. I assume most of our communities will have to embrace some sort of exclusion if they haven't already. But it's serious money, and we don't want to make any assumptions of how people feel about it. Thanks, Andrew. And then the last slide is Pembroke. So you would remember a few years ago, would have been spring 23, there was a warrant article about admitting the town of Marshfield. And now the town of Pembroke has expressed interest for similar reasons, valuing access to vocational education and not having access. My thumbnails, I will not read this slide to you, but I'll summarize it this way. What is the biggest positive to saying, yes, let's invite in a 10th community? It's cost sharing. I would anticipate Pembroke, based on their size, what I would think is their demand, I would say they would be an oversubscribed community. So to Greg's earlier point about how do you apportion the seats, I think Pembroke, by the 28-29 school year, we might be admitting 20 kids a year. So they're going to bring in 20 kids. They're going to take on operating costs and debt share costs, similar to the language we brought to our towns in 23 about Marshfield. So single biggest plus, you've just found us a revenue stream. You're partnering. You're expanding the region. Single biggest negative, we've got to share seats. Share cost, share seats, depending on how you feel about it. When people ask me about the sharing of seats, what does that mean? I'll point you to number 3 in the frequently asked questions. If Pembroke joins under these terms and conditions, they would be apportioned 10 seats in a freshman class for the 27-28 school year. That means on paper, each of our existing 9 towns approximately would take a haircut of 1 seat. Now, that doesn't change the fact that I would project we'll still have unused seats from a few communities, so that haircut might wash out. In 28-29, I would suggest a community like Abington might see a haircut of 2 seats. Again, I don't think that's going to be permanent because A, we're going to have unused seats, again, historically. But the other obvious point is that when we can eventually expand our enrollment, we will eventually be able to grow the school enrollment so it will absorb any integration of a 10th community. and then all of the town's seats would eventually be able to increase.
I was going to say, when you're talking about increasing the capacity of the building by approximately 200 students, the increase of 20-ish spots for Pembroke or whatever it ends up being gets absorbed into that very easily.
Yes, it does. So I think long-term, if you ask me, hey, what about other towns? I would say, ooh, it's even too fast for me. Like, I think we've reached, because now I think we're going to have a super majority of oversubscribed towns. And I think we have to say, we got the support of our communities to build this school. And now we're also looking to say that we want to be supportive of all taxpayers in the communities, however they might feel about vocational education or our school or the expense. So it's an expensive building. We're doing our best, again, to control for costs, and we'll continue to do so. Bringing in another partner, I think, and our school board also felt that the pros outweigh the cons. So the article that would be in front of the communities is like the second step in the process. Pembroke voted this back in October. Our towns get a crack at it during the town meetings. And thanks for moving your town meeting to the first Monday of May. That's now 6 town meetings. So if you do not see me in the audience, do not think I'm being rude. There might be a cardboard cutout, or I might be somewhere else. But this will be a warrant article that will look very similar to folks who are at town meeting on a regular basis. And then there's a document that will show you where the smaller details are. Pembroke will pay into our stabilization fund. They'll pay some additional operating expenses along the way.
Previous years, you don't have to go back to the slide, but when the yellow number on the bottom of the bar chart
That's the
higher,
non-resident
non-resident
enrollment, that's right.
If I remember correctly, in those times when that number was higher, we had a decent number of students from Pembroke.
That's right. And they looked at that, they looked at that data, Matt, and said, yeah, there's definitely a demand. The push in Pembroke with the support of their local school district is they don't have access to the programs.
Yeah.
So Pembroke and Marshfield would have been the 2 headliner communities during that non-resident window when the regulations were different.
Yeah.
Are there, for the non-resident, are there enough seats, I guess would be the word, for those non-residents that aren't accounted for through other towns?
I would say at this point, no. The regulations say you have to admit in-district kids first in grade 9. So with 400 for 200, that won't happen with that math. What about the older kids, though? With the older kids, the rule is still you're accepting in-district kids first. So without going into too much detail, let's say we had a few spots open in culinary arts in grade 11. So let's say we have 2 spots open and 5 kids want it. We're going to run a lottery with 5 bingo balls in the bag. In district. It's only if there was no in-district interest for an upper class seat that we would see that happen. My guess is if we report any non-resident kiddos in the future, it's going to be because, once again, they probably moved. They moved to a community that was not part of a regional voc tech. And that's where we might see just a sprinkling of those numbers.
So if you have a student that's been there for 2 or 3 years, moves out of district, and then there's a lottery for that one spot that they left and it gets taken, they can no longer continue that program with that voc.
Fortunately, there's a humane provision in the regulations that no, that child doesn't. The only reason a child would leave our school under those circumstances is if they moved into a zip code where that new community, the receiving community, has a regional voc tech. That's the only time that there might be a not so happy ending to that story. But if they moved into a community where that program isn't offered or they don't have that affiliation, then the receiving community's K-12 superintendent would receive an application from the family saying, hey, we want to continue at South Shore. And 99 times out of 100, that application is approved. And then we would bill that new community. So we might bill Duxbury or Hingham or Hull, 3 communities, let's say, in the area that are not affiliated with any voc tech. And then we collect that tuition. The kid stays, no disruption to the kid's education.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a good question, and that does come up.
Yeah.
So thanks for letting me fit in, 3 things in one. This is our town meeting roadshow, and so it goes. So,
So May 4th is your version of Super Tuesday.
yes, it is, yes, I trademark called Super Monday. Yeah, so that's, it is, yeah. And so far, it's worked. So we want to make sure we get the word out on multiple areas and make sure that our town leadership is aware and our school committee representatives are aware.
Can you guys just, because I'm a little dinosaur brain, can you explain to me how, if we do interest only in the beginning, how we don't pay more for the loan?
You do,
Oh,
yes.
thought you said not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Oh, yeah, so that's what,
Present value.
that's what I'm looking for
Oh,
Chris's
sorry.
On a
answer.
present value basis,
A present value basis.
yeah. Would you pay more?
If I'm not touching the principal and I'm basically pushing off the major costs, so the bottom line number would be, if we
Well, you're
could.
paying more interest because you're paying, but on a present value basis, it's not necessarily more. And also, with present value, I mean, the real cost is the present value of that stream, not, when you pay, you're also, by doing interest only, first of all, it's only 9 million, you're not doing the whole amount.
Correct.
It's not the 151 million,
Yeah.
which is, I think, why you're saying, in 2028, we gotta make a decision.
Yeah.
9 million, probably not a huge difference anyway. But you're also a little betting, well, maybe the market will be a little better for getting a fixed interest rate
That's
in
right.
a year or 2 years.
That's right.
All right, so there's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank
What's
you.
the benefit?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you lock in, you lock in. And
That's, so, so when you lock into the 9 million, you're just locking into certain amounts
That's right, for a short period of time.
for a certain period of
And
time?
we can renew those bands, or we can move to a bond. Yeah, and we'll look at. market
That's what
temperature.
I was looking for from Chris.
No dinosaur brain there.
Yeah, it's definitely a dinosaur brain.
I wasn't getting it till.
I didn't get it. I wanted for somebody to tell me how I can do interest only and not pay more money.
It's a conversation for FY '27 or '28.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
As always, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
When are you getting Hingham in there?
They have to ask first, and then I got a few other things going on, so.
Thank you.
Tom,
Have a good
thank you
night.
for your
Thanks,
time.
Michael. Yeah, Matt. take care.
Appreciate it. And Tom P., thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Do we want to bring Lindsay up now? Let her go while you guys still have to stay here after that anyway?
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on
Yeah,
up.
yes, yeah.
Good
Sorry to
evening.
make you wait this long.
No, I'm actually glad that he went first because he answered a lot of the questions that are probably going to be on my budget. Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Fire away.
Yes, so the mission of the Treasurer Collector's Office is to serve all of our Abington taxpayers, business owners, and town employees in the most efficient and effective manner possible. We will certainly conduct our activities with a high degree of integrity and professionalism at all times. We have close to 600 employees with town and school. We have over 17,000 residents here in town, and it's a very, very busy office. Some of our achievements this year that I've noted, we implemented a town investment policy that was voted on, I think it was last week or the week before, by the select board. And then we installed a check reader for same-day transactions. So those deposits we're receiving same day, we can turn over collection much faster.
So the investment policy, we didn't have one before?
We did not, no. We did not have a cash policy either. I implemented that the year before.
So we can invest our money?
We can,
now.
yes.
That's great.
Last year, we were able to invest our OPEB funds
Yeah.
with PCOT, which is the Plymouth County OPEB Trust,
Yeah,
which reduced our liability quite a bit last year.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Continuing on, we converted all active employees and retirees along with all of their dependents to a new healthcare system. We issued bans for FY23 capital projects, which is the firehouse and DPW, fire engine, fuel pumps, and the memorial fields. Some other notable achievements in the office, our collection rate was running around between 99% and 100% last year. So that's fantastic for real estate and tax title. So can't get much better than that. One of the other things we did last year, healthcare is obviously huge, we talk about it all the time, is we implemented a health and wellness program here at Town Hall. We expanded it to the schools. We implemented a weight loss challenge. We did walking clubs. We sent out healthy recipes to all of our staff members once a week, and it was very well received. I think we had a weight loss around 1,100 pounds or something like that. I don't have the exact number, but people really, really enjoyed it. We had a water station here at Town Hall, so it was great. Some goals that I have for fiscal year 28 is to continue maximizing the automation with our Harper's reporting application and timesheet module. If you remember, I said here last year, and I converted our payroll system that was very archaic, DOS-based, into the 21st century. So we're still, that was, like I said, the goal was to pay everyone on a Thursday. There were hiccups. We have worked through all of those, and now we're kind of continuing on to really automate and use the portals as in the applications that we've been desired. We are going to implement an internal benefit software. That is actually already almost done. So I said here last year, and I said, we are keeping track of all of our benefits on an Excel spreadsheet, and all of the data that we're putting in Excel is only good as what we're putting in. And there's a lot of room for error. With that said, we have been able to create a data system that, in using Access, that we're taking all of our math teachers' retirement system, Plymouth County, our payroll deductions, as well as all of our invoicing, and really combining all of that to figure out what is needed if this person didn't pay a deduction this month and this person overpaid. So it's kind of a one-stop shopping, as well as reporting, which we didn't have before. The other goal is to bond the $38.5 million for the firehouse and DPW project, the fire engine, the fuel pumps, and the memorial fields. We banned them last year. I think we all just had a little lesson in what a ban is. So next, we certainly hope to bond those. And then the obvious is to continue to uphold our excellent customer service and improve any skills that we can possibly within our standards in the treasurer's office. So that is it for the other, to moving on to what our highlights are. So last year I requested a part-time assistant in the office. That's been something, truthfully, I've been here over 6 years, and I think I've requested it every year. My predecessor has requested it. We're on about year number 9 that I know of requesting part-time help in the office. We're still requesting it. Things that used to be just a fax, now we're logging into 5 different portals. The workload has significantly increased, and we still have the same number of staff members. Increase last year was the pension to meet the funding schedule. We all talked about fiscal year 32. I can't wait. And we had a 10.4 increase to health insurance last year. That was decreased this year. Moving on to fiscal year 27, there is an 8% increase to health insurance. And to answer your question earlier, what is the likelihood of that changing? It is very unlikely. That is something I have an open line of communication with NFP, our broker. We do talk weekly, if not daily sometimes, about the numbers. And you heard Tom say that they have a 10% increase with Mayflower. Our claims were fantastic this year. It's coming in at 8%, and that really has to do with NFP taking over last February, and really underrating that rate more effectively to decrease that rate. The big one, I had to break the news to my poor retirees who melt my heart every day. They're so kind, that their retiree health insurance was increasing this year to 66.5%. That was a letter that I unfortunately had to send. We did hold a meeting over at the COA for our seniors, but that is something that doesn't come from the town of Abington, unfortunately. It really has to do with hospitalization. There's a lot of in and out of hospitalization claims that went up. There was an increase to Medicare Part A and Part B. And the feds changed their table for 2026. So again, a significant increase to my retirees. And I call them my retirees because they come in and
Yeah. Wow.
What's like a typical one? Like
13,
1,300?
a typical
Sorry, 13, like about, if they're.
percentage.
Yeah. Well, you just said 66%. So what do they usually pay?
$66.50.
$2,000 a month, $1,000 a month?
For their Medicare Part B, it's
Yep.
around 1,300. I don't know the exact total.
So it's like 1,800 now?
No, well, it's combined Part A and Part B, so it's
Oh,
different.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, having retirees on a fixed income who.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I-
That's not a month, that's a year. The 1,300 or the
Yes,
1,800.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I was gonna say, my part B is
It's
not.
around 200.
Not
Yeah, it's
that
around
much.
200. So the next slide, oh, we skipped. Okay, so this one here, this is our revenue. I don't have it printed here, Andrew. So MLCs. MLCs and register, so MLCs is self-explanatory. Those are our municipal lien certificates. Anytime there's a transaction of a purchase or a refinance, we have to issue an MLC certificate. That does get recorded at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. Registry markings, that is our deputy fees. So those are our registry fees that we collect from the deputy collector. Interest on deposits, that's pretty self-explanatory. So that's the interest that we're receiving from all of our bank accounts.
That's not the investing?
No. It does include some of the OPEB funds, yes. That's the only one that we have invested currently.
That's the only one we've invested in?
That was just last year, yes.
But we can do anything now?
As of, yes, now that we have the investment.
Anything according to the policy.
Yes, there's only certain types of funds that can be invested. So there's stabilization, an MMDT fund. Sometimes there's surplus from any type of bond. Some of that can be invested as well, but there's only certain types of investments. We're not gonna say, hey, we're gonna take all the general fund and invest it. That is not the case. There are legal guidelines, a lot of legal guidelines that have to take place before any type of investment is done. Okay, moving on, so we have our meals tax. And then below that, we have our motor vehicle excise tax. So this is what was received. And I know a question last year was 2023, why do we have $290? Those are people that are paying this past fiscal year for a tax that was due in 2013. So they're catching up.
Wait, what? Somebody owes us money for 2013?
Someone
Well, we have
paid us money,
someone paid us money for their 2013 bill,
paid us money that they owed in
2013.
Like per the court, or just like came in,
So what happens is,
said,
most likely they either moved away, they could have lost their license. There's a number of factors involved. But yes, they would have not have been able to renew their license or registration without paying that. So as you can see, it gets, in 2025, that is our main collection was the $2,365,000. We're currently in our 2026 excise tax craziness right now. Those are due the 20th of the month. So it's very different than, our typical real estate deadlines where we have about 5,800 bills that go out, 5,600, something like that. And we're sending out close to over 16,000 bills for excise tax. Think about how many cars you have in your household, and each one of those is a bill. Tax deferrals, we only have one tax deferral here in town, so that's great. And same thing with our tax title revenue. So we did take in, that's starting to level off. If you look at the numbers here from 2022 to 2023, and then moving on, those numbers, we've really got a lot of people on payment plans. That also has to do with the law that changed. And with those payment plans, I have people come in every week now that, sat there. And they're coming in usually every week, every 2 weeks, and they're a couple $100, and it's making a difference.
Yeah, we went through a few years ago, putting some
Yes.
changes in place to what you were allowed to do and how you were allowed to do it.
Yes,
that.
yes.
And it's good to hear that those are having the
I
effect
had
that you were hoping.
probably 40 plus of tax titles, and I'm down to, I think, just about 20. And those ones are, ones, we can't find the owners. They're located overseas. They have title issues with registry of deeds. They're in land court. Those are the ones that I have now. But everything else has really been cleaned up.
Backing up a second, we kind of slid right past Greg's favorite topic, the marijuana tax.
Millions.
1.1 million.
I'll say, based on the trend there, if the impact fee had stayed in place, we would be edging closer to $1 million a year.
Probably a billion.
The current town manager does not know the history of that one.
I can't believe I didn't bring that up with Greg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was getting rid of all our problems, by the way. That was the funding source. That was just.
Yep.
We were going to fund OPEB with it, remember?
It was getting, we were in a rocket.
It's the panacea for a lot of cities and towns, so they thought.
Yep. Everybody saw, what was the first town that opened somewhere in central Mass? Began with an L.
Amherst or somewhere in the west, yeah.
It began with an L, and I can't remember. It was near Spencer, because I have a,
Ludlow,
Leominster.
Leominster,
no,
Leicester.
Leicester.
might have been Leicester. But the first one that opened was like, the lines were like 2 towns over and caused traffic everywhere. And every town thought, I'm going to get that money for my town. And didn't realize that when everyone had one open, or 4 or 5 of them open, the money just spreads out over everybody. It's not everybody getting all of that money.
But then they changed it, right? They also changed
They also changed it and took one of the fees away. Because the state decided that towns don't need money.
Yeah.
Seems to be a common theme.
Yes, yes, indeed.
All right.
I really have no idea what went into that one specifically. It is very unlike the state of Massachusetts to put a fee in place on or what are typically referred to as a sin tax, and then to take it away. Massachusetts is not usually in the habit of taking away things that they're charging people for.
Just think about the vote that day to have 4 or 5 of them. Does that vote say yes if we're not collecting the money?
If we're collecting half of them.
Yeah, whatever, half. Yeah, it's
That we
just-
were expecting to. And we said that day, we said no 3 times and then yes on the 4th time, so that's still the craziest town meeting I've ever.
So we're over $1 billion. We did it.
Hooray.
I'll tell Jansen.
All right. Continuing on, sorry for the intro.
No, that's okay. So this here is the salaries level funded. This is really kind of what we're on the hook for. Myself as treasurer collector, that didn't move. The assistant treasurer collector, again, you can see there, the rate didn't move. The chief clerk and bookkeeper, as well as the payroll benefits, they are part of our clerical union, so those are contractual increases. This page here is the level service. So this does include increases. As you can see, the rate increase for myself, as well as the assistant treasurer collector, and this does house the new part-timer on here for the $20,358. And this is standard stuff that's just more, contract obligations, the stipends, and any type of buybacks if it's in the contract. So this is all in.
You look at your chart.
You did fill out my chart. Thank you, Andrew. I couldn't access it.
Sorry, just one point of clarification.
Yes, of course.
You said, it's been like 9 years or something requesting that part-time. But the work's been getting done, and as automation increases, you think it's now equally or more important to add that part-time position?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, since I've been on, adding that part-timer, the work just keeps on increasing. We're doing as much as we possibly can to automate anything that we have in the office. I have tried to think of absolutely everything that I can make automated. Everything from bringing in an ATM machine to, I've added Venmo, I've added PayPal, I've done absolutely everything I possibly can within the realm of what I can have to automate. And we're still at a point of, things are continuously changing. Like I said, with our healthcare, for instance, being self-funded, we handle a lot of the claims in the office. Half of my day sometimes can just be healthcare. We're the first, they'll call the healthcare company, but if they don't get their answer that they want, they're calling me. So those, can take up half of a day, if not more.
Good, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Now the fun stuff. So my budget doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. It doesn't have a lot of fluff in it. These are a lot of things that we're just simply on the hook for. So the first line is obviously, oop, Andrew's moving on me. Salaries. Below that is our sick leave incentive, so that is something that is required within the clerical contract.
Quick question.
Sure.
On salaries, we have FY '26 budget at 249.53, FY '27 level funded at 16,000 more than that. We just went over the level funded, and the increase looked to, first of all, the numbers don't match up.
Where is this?
So the first line, so on this one, we have FY '27.
257 for level funded.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
257 for level funded.
So the
282,023, 282,023. Also, yeah.
okay. I wasn't looking at, what I was looking at was not what I thought I was looking at, so sorry about that.
That's okay.
But the difference between FY '26 and level funded are the contractual increases, correct?
The difference between,
On the salary
yes,
line.
yes, as well as the part-timer for fiscal year '27.
That's for level service.
Level service.
Yep. But for level funded, it's the contractual.
It's just the
increases.
contractual, yes. That's it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All of you said.
Pause. All right. So on the budget here, we have our rentals and leases for the postage meter. If you remember a couple years ago, we couldn't print our money on the postage meter that we had. I know that was a conversation we had regarding ink. So we did change out our postage meter a couple years ago as we were required to do so. Our lease was up. And we were also able to we had to have red ink that was magnetic. With that said, that was the reason for the increase. In fiscal year '26, that has remained the same for fiscal year '27. Education and training, that increased a little bit, but not quite much. One of my fees, one of the classes I take did increase, so that was, nothing significant there. The big number was the purchase services. So as you can see in fiscal year '26, and then moving on to fiscal year '27, those increases really had to do with the payroll company. So when we automated going to Harper's, that obviously came at a cost. So that's the reason for that increase. Other services that are included in the purchase services is our billing company. So we have a printer that prints our bills. So that changed as well as the deputy collector printing. We also are paying for our postage now for the deputy collector. Office supplies, that's, I skipped one, I'm sorry. Treasure collector postage. So the postage I have in my office, and that is for the entire town. That is not just for my office. Office supplies, that's self-explanatory. That is the same for level funded, level service. Not a little bit of an increase there, but not much. Travel, same thing there. Not significant increase. Dues and fees, that hasn't changed at all. Some of my dues and fees is my dues to Mass Collectors Treasurers Association, as well as Veribank, which is a rating agency that I keep track of all of our banks here in town. The tax foreclosure charges, I did decrease those this year, and the reason for that decrease is because it has really cleaned up. I didn't see a reason to keep it at, a $45,000 budget when, I don't really anticipate to, these tax titles that I have on, like I said, over the next year, there might be one or two that hopefully will fall off. So I may not even need any of the $35,000. The next column I have is debt. So let me go to that. This debt is all in. So that's everything that we are on the hook for, as well as the new debt for the firehouse. And that is something that we're doing a short-term borrowing for right now, and we will be banning that.
So just looking at, you probably said this, but I missed it. Your department budget, level funded, is up 18%.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's mainly because of these purchase services.
And postage.
And postage.
And that's postage?
Right below purchase services, the treasurer collector postage is
Oh,
also
okay.
significant.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, the postage is actually something that's in my office. Postage is considered a currency, and does house it for, that's the budget for the entire town.
We do have election.
Purchase services is?
Purchase services it's a lot in that bucket. So that's our printers for the bills, that has to do with, that's our fee for the payroll company, Hoppers. There's other items in there as, oh goodness, I have a whole listing.
But why is it going up?
That's because of the new payroll company. The new payroll company.
Oh, okay.
So before we were with CDS. CDS was more of a DOS-based system. We were with them for forever, since I know.
Wow.
And then when we moved to Harper's, that was the increase in the payroll system. And I'm glad we did that, because CDS is now closing its doors. They're no longer doing payroll.
Because they weren't charging enough.
They weren't
I think-
updating their.
Yeah,
Probably.
truthfully, they did have an increase of about 11% a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And usually when I see an increase that, they're
Yeah.
trying to market themselves to sell.
Okay.
So I'm very thankful that we were able to get on board with Hoppers, because he did make an announcement several months ago that he is no longer going to be doing payroll. A lot of the communities around here are left with, they're scrambling to find a payroll company such as Harper's, because it is a saturated industry. So we, thankfully we're to be able to get into Harper's, whereas some others are going to another company.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is the travel line for?
So the travel line is our travel for, every year I have to go to UMass Amherst for an entire week. And it's required for a treasurer collector school, they call it, as well as the assistant treasurer collector. So it's our fee to go there. It's for hotel costs.
Gotcha.
The next item down is retirements.
Real quick before
Yeah.
we go past debt, the interest, the very large increase in interest, doubling of interest, I'm assuming that's for the fire DPW project?
Yes, so it's really the interest heavy on the front because we're banning, just like we heard Tom
As we
Hickey say. Yes, so that's the reason for that increase, where you see the principal kind of leveling off. some in fiscal year '28, I do expect there to be two debt exclusions removed. So that will be the windows and doors will be removed. I think there'll be
Finally.
applause in the town of Abington, as well as.
That one's been a long. time
Yes,
coming.
I think I looked today, I think it was like June 15th so that's fallen off 28, as well as the police station. That is falling off at 28 as well. So there is hope.
That is good.
Yes,
Doesn't help 27, but.
it does not,
we'll
no.
Definitely take it in 28.
Retirement at 4.7 million, 4.755, 958. Unemployment, Andrew kind of went over earlier.
I'd like to amend my statement. So for the unemployment budget for '27, we took the '26 budget and added the reserve to it. So it's 368K, not just the
okay.
reserve
Thank
for
you.
those people. So it's-
Anticipated my
yeah.
question.
Healthcare,
And we have that, Andrew, on level funded and level service?
Yes, because that's, I see what you're saying. Most of it is from health insurance. So to the extent that the override passes or doesn't, it's kind of a wash. There's just that
It's
extra funding there.
for the level funded version of it, if it's not there, it's health insurance.
Right.
So it's in one place or the other.
Right.
So it's not that we just found some savings.
Right, it's not double counting, it offsets.
Are these numbers for the whole town or just your department? Like
these numbers are for the whole town.
Okay.
So my department handles the debt for the entire town as well as healthcare
Okay.
and Plymouth County
I would
retirement.
hope so.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
But-
It's a lot of healthcare for
I know.
4 people.
Yeah.
Sick
Yes.
people.
So, and it's the healthcare for town and school.
Yeah.
And like the retirement and all, like this whole section?
Yes,
Okay.
so I do not have, obviously, my budget does not have Mass Teachers Retirement System in there. It only houses Plymouth County retirements.
Okay.
So you just said it, but I want to make sure I understand. The health insurance is the town and the school.
That is correct.
The retirement is just the town.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
So there can be teachers that are with Mass Teachers Retirement, but the paraprofessionals, custodians, other personnel that are not teachers would be in Plymouth County if they're working over 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So those
But
are
the
the ones-
teachers themselves
They're-
aren't in here.
Correct.
Okay. That- Thank you.
And health insurance. So health insurance, we are looking at 8% increase. This number includes 20 new family plans, which was very conservative. I've already had 10 this fiscal year. But those are ones that if someone comes in and they're, have a life event, and they go into a family plan, that's something that we have to obviously give them. That $200,000, the difference between level funded and level service is our retiree plan. So that is a placeholder number for calendar year '27. Obviously, there being a 66.5% increase for our retirees this past calendar year. I hope I don't have to use it. It could be more, it could be less. But 200,000 was a projection for calendar year '27. The next item down is,
Sorry, wait, just 1 second.
Yes, of course.
Calculating something so that I can make a point.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So there is no extra contribution to OPEB in your budget?
there is
Yeah.
no extra contribution. Fiscal year 32, Chris.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. That is something that we've obviously would love to contribute to OPEB. I've given my OPEB spiel to this group here. Contributing to OPEB, in doing the investment policy and investing into Plymouth County OPEB Trust was something that we were able to do without contributing and lowering our liability. So that's something like I said, last July, I think we were able to do it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just wanted to point out, looking at just the numbers that we have from FY '27 back to FY '22, 5-year span, health insurance has increased by 44%.
Yep.
So for people at home wondering where the town's money is going and are we not accounting for things, and are we not being efficient and judicious with our money? These are the things that we are up against as a town, is over a 5-year span, a multi-million-dollar increase in health insurance, 44% increase where we get to increase our levy by 2.5% each year. So it's
And health insurance.
difficult math.
Yes, and health insurance is something that, I'm looking at, like I said, daily. This is something that last year I implemented an insurance advisory committee. We went to all the towns, what percentage is this town doing? What percentage is our town doing? Looking at Maya, looking at GIC, looking at going with a health company directly. We went through all avenues to try to really mitigate our rates for this town. And we're up against contracts. So that's something that, like I said, this is, we've worked through claims. I have a very good relationship with NFP and an open line of communication with them. If there's anything that I can do, such as implementing, a health and wellness program here in town, I'm going to do it.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Lindsay?
Not for Lindsay, but the group. So if the level service budget fails for whatever specific, whatever. We're looking at it almost
If the
2
overrides
million.
are not passed.
That's what it's late.
Yep.
We're looking at between FY '26 and FY '27, even level funded, we're looking at, what was that, $1.8 million? Where does that money come from?
So if you go back to the overview budget sheet, if you look at the FY town meeting operating expenses is 73 million. The level funded for FY '27 is 76,300,000. The reason that there is a 3.3 million difference there is not because we did not look at actually level funding. It's because things like health insurance, we don't control
Sure.
we don't control the cost of it. And so debt for the fire station project, things like that, the health insurance that we talked about are what are causing the Lindsay's numbers on her sheet here to be a $2-something million increase. And that's what we.
Oh, sorry. I know why there's a 1.8. I'm saying,
What was your-
how do we pay?
So that's.
Where does the money
so that
come from?
That is.
If the
it's
town
just-
isn't improving and increased?
So that's part of the level funded that we are paying with both the general fund and Chapter 70 and all of the state money, as well as the free cash money at this point. That's the 2.9 million free cash that we have to spend right now.
For now.
Right now.
Okay. Okay. So maybe a future problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because if we have that every year and the
Oh,
free
it's-
cash
it's
is no longer
it's
there,
unsustainable,
my
yes.
question does remain of
It is-
how do we
It
pay
is
that?
unsustainable.
Okay, I
yes.
just, money appear, yeah, okay.
So I think the larger answer to that question is we have tried to present two different options, level funded versus level service. Level funded, we have taken we didn't take it as here is the number that our funds were, our budget was last year. We're doing that. It's with contractual and out of our control costs funded without cutting other positions, cutting expenses where we can, but without cutting people.
But in the future, that might
But
be a
that
different
just-
decision.
Just to do, there may come a time, depending on how the economy is.
No, right, yeah.
That we have no choice, even with override, but to.
No, right,
to
yeah.
cut-
So that was a decision.
To cut positions, yes.
Okay.
And
Given your question,
cut services.
is this a good time for someone to explain what free cash is? You know, that free cash is, you explain it,
Sure.
not me, because.
Free cash is savings from last year. When revenues come in higher than we expect them, or when we spend less money than what is budgeted, that savings is money that we can take from last year and spend it in this year.
So the state, and Andrew submits all of our, after the fiscal year is over, compiles all of our information, submits it to the State Department of Revenue. They go over every single line and say, this is what we budgeted, this is what we spent. Budgeted, spent for every single thing that we do. And they say, here's what the difference is and what's left over. And essentially, it's the money that we didn't spend last year. And we typically, because we try to be very conservative in what we estimate and how we budget, and we make sure that we are not only that our balanced budget is truly balanced, and it's not a sort of, hey, we're going to take in $10 million in marijuana revenue this year to balance our budget.
Voodoo economics.
We're not, exactly, we're not doing voodoo economics. We're overestimating costs in some areas. Our departments are frugal wherever they can be frugal, and they do an excellent job with that. We typically have money left over at the end of each year. And the state has chosen to refer to that as free cash, which is a terrible, terrible, terrible name. It is our money that we didn't spend.
Prior year's surplus.
Yes,
Yeah. And just that 1 year.
Right.
So
yes,
you did a great job last year
yep,
Exactly.
of the town.
yes. So just to that point, last year, when the majority of the towns around us were going for overrides, we balanced our budget and ended up with how much money in free cash?
I want to say 4 million-ish.
So we ended up essentially under budget by several $1 million, which is helping us to at least level fund our budget this year.
Thank you.
It's a very, very good question.
I mean, yeah, it's probably confusing that people see a deficit of
Yeah.
3 million for a level funded budget.
Yes. Yeah, and like we went over, there's the debt money for the fire DPW building, which is significant. That's about half of the deficit that's on there is that. The health insurance money is another very large chunk.
Yes.
So we have other areas that we talked about. Lindsay, just little in comparison numbers. Lindsay's software and service to run her department is up several, like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And we've got a bunch of those. And then you add in all of our contractual obligated raises for our staff, it adds up. And so while that number is up, our overall expenses are probably, like the expense side of things for the town is probably down. Salaries are up, health insurance is up, debt is up. We have cut expenses despite that increase, so. Anything else for Lindsay? or tangentially around Lindsay. Nothing, Floyd? No. Greg?
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I know it's late. All right. Mr. Town Manager?
Mr. Chairman?
Welcome to the hot seat.
Yes, okay. I am ready. Okay.
Let's see if the accent comes out.
I've never noticed an accent.
No. Okay, so mission statement for the town manager. The mission of the town manager is to promote the goals, values, and vision of the town throughout the organization and the community. The manager shall also endeavor to lead through example by promoting good communication, transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior, all while providing the highest level of customer service to the community. Achievements. I've only been here about 6 weeks or so. I issued an RFP for the demoing of 22 Bedford Street, and the building is in the process of coming down. Anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's a building that's owned by the golf course. They're taking that down to eventually make room for bathrooms behind the stockade fence that's there. They no longer need that building. It was in poor shape. Improving communication with schools and other departments. I meet every other week with the superintendent, and we talk about any challenges that may come up. Increased communication with our department heads. I had the pleasure of appointing, my first appointment, appointed emergency management director. We needed to have an emergency management director because with the blizzard, one of the requirements for MEMA is they have to tally up. So in order for us to get potential reimbursement, nothing's guaranteed, but Plymouth County has to make a threshold, the state then has to make a threshold. If they make those thresholds, then they can start talking about potential reimbursement. But in order to do that, we needed to have an emergency management director. So the police chief is our emergency management director. Also presented the FY27 budget to the select board and schools, and coordinated blizzard recovery costs through MEMA and working with the emergency management director. Goals. My goals are to establish clear guidelines for the implementation and presentation of the FY27 operating budget to the residents of Abington at town meeting in accordance with the previous vote of the select board as it relates to the configuration of the annual town meeting warrant and submission of the questions on the official override ballot for May 16, 2026 special town election. Also, be ensuring fiscal year develop a financial forecast for the next 5 years as to project revenues and anticipated expenses. It's even more important that we do that now as we're in a financial crunch. We need to be accounting for every single dollar. We need to be anticipating realistically what's going to be coming in there, and we need to constantly monitor our expenses to make sure we're keeping those in check. And, we have to go without when things are tough, just like anyone's household. Develop a capital plan for the next 5 years to project the various capital needs for the department, boards, and commissions. We need to take a look at, what do we need to do for capital needs, heating, air conditioning, ventilation, roofs, handicapped accessibility issues, all of that. The 5-year capital plan gives a lookout so that, people can look at, see the things that we need to do. Now, it's like anything else. We can have a great plan. We can be articulating the things that we need to do, but if there's no money, things get pushed further out. But you need to have that plan so you at least know the direction you need to be going in and what the needs are. Also, conduct a complete assessment of all departments in town hall, reviewing each department for a possible consolidation or outsourcing of services. I'm already doing that, taking a look at, and you may have heard in my presentation, one of my priorities will be in a flat economy and the struggles that we have here financially is how can I bring in additional revenues? What can I do? Beyond cutting the cost, that's an important piece to make sure that we're only buying the things we need. We're realistic about, as we start looking at CBAs, I don't know what the future has, so we're not going to be as competitive as we have been in previous years. We have to account because right now there's no certainty to what those funds are going to be. So need to take a look at that. I mentioned to the school committee, everything's on the table. Maybe we need to start thinking about a regional school system. We have a beautiful high school and a beautiful middle school. Elementary schools need a lot of work and repair. Maybe we would pair up with a community out there that has, better elementary schools than we have, but not necessarily the high school. And, those are things that we would look at. Ultimately, it would be town meeting that will make those decisions, if they want to go in those directions. My job is to come up with ideas and present them and then see what the residents, how best they want things. Same thing with, you could consolidate veteran services, animal control officer. We already do the phone system and stuff for the emergency calls and things like that. So we do that. It's over in Holbrook. Well, we'll continue to look at those. We'll continue to, the other thing I want to get into is photovoltaics. Photovoltaics can create a revenue stream for us. So for instance, last night I was at the Conservation Commission meeting, and we're going through the process now, the permitting process to cap the landfill. And landfills are phenomenal. There's no trees, you don't have to cut any trees down. They're a big open space. Once they're capped, you could put photovoltaic field out there. And we would be leasing that space. That's how the town makes money. That then would create a revenue source. So that's tantamount to having an override every single year, but it's the utility companies that pay us. So I'd be looking at things like that. We'd have to issue an RFP, get an energy consultant to take a look at that. We have to see, is the photovoltaics the way to go? Is there still money, federal money? There may not be, state money's probably drying up, but, we want to explore that, want to take a look at that. It's important that we do that. Photovoltaics also could be carports, they can be roof-mounted units. Roof-mounted units get to be a little more difficult. The reason is you have to take into consideration the condition of the roof. Most industry contracts for photovoltaics is a 20-year. So if the roof is not 20-year, you're fixed with that cost. Sometimes when there was a lot of money to get cities and towns into photovoltaics, some of the companies would then, with their lease payment on the space, would then finance the roof for you. So you wouldn't have to use your money. We don't know what the appetite's out there, but I think it's worth taking a look at. So those are some of the
I will
things.
point out that some of the people on this committee suggested that when we were building the new school building. To put panels on the roof
Yeah.
there, and that was ultimately not something we were able to do at the
Yeah,
time.
but
Chose
it's,
to do, I think there was something to do with the state rules of the project or something. But
yeah,
that was a suggestion that has been made. So
Yeah, the,
I like that you're investigating that.
yeah, I think it's important. We always want to look at it. It's best to have a whole array of options.
Yeah.
And then let town meeting decide, let the town decide, what they would like. Okay,
Is there any way you can get us like waterfront property?
that would be an impossibility.
Got waterfront.
We could.
Pond.
We have a lot of wetland.
Yes.
So,
If we flood the wetlands.
well, we do have the beautiful pond, so.
Yep.
Develop a plan for continuity of morale among the employees at Town Hall, including department heads and other departments. I want people to feel good about coming to work. I spend a lot of time checking in with the department heads, making sure department heads are checking in with the employees. We talk to the employees. Friday was employee recognition. I had bagels and invited people to come. I treated for the bagels so that people could come. And, it's a nice opportunity to talk to people. People work really hard. I think if you come into town hall, you walk around, you go to the library, excuse me, go to the library, you go to the DPW, stuff like that, you'll see people working hard. We're very lean. And the mantra is, people, we pay very competitive wage and people work, so we want people to be happy. I think if people are happy, their productivity level is much higher. And we also want them to be motivated intrinsically and extrinsically, because when customers come in, sometimes they're having a bad day. Sometimes they weren't anticipating those excise tax bills, they get their property tax bill. So, you want to be welcoming to those people that come in, because a lot of people still like to come to town hall, especially seniors, et cetera. That's a big social day for them, to come out, pay their taxes, pay their excise tax bill, see some new faces, see some friendly faces that they knew from the past, maybe go to lunch afterwards, if the weather permits. Also, I'm working on developing a retention, preservation, and possible display of historic town documents that are in care and custody, not necessarily under the care and custody of the select board, but in other departments, some of our older books to put on display, and they have them set up in a secure area where people can come in and take a look at, so we can share some of that rich history going all the way back to 1712. Implementation of previously voted project of the select board instituting and creating plaques to be placed at the new fire headquarters and DPW facility once the buildings are completed, recognizing the dedication to those buildings to the various department heads and employees who serve the town. So fire department would be all the fire chiefs, and the DPW would be all the DPW superintendents, so that they get the recognition for their contribution. Also, research the financial administration of employees' health insurance, and you look at, do we switch? Do we stay where we are? Do we look at Mayflower? Mayflower is a good competition. They're very healthy. They got about 32 million in their reserves. The problem is, once you get out, in order to get back in, you have to pay in. So we're not in a position to do that. We probably wouldn't be in a position to join another group at the moment until things turn around financially. But you have to take a look at that also. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay. Highlights, let's see, FY '25 utility adjustments, include website, community outreach consultant, and the budget. FY '26 town manager highlights. In the town manager's office, we had the reduction of one part-time position, and then in '27, we had the total elimination of that, so we're not gonna have a part-time, so it's just really Nancy in the select board office. If we look at level funding, you'll see on the chart, administrative assistance bylaw, she's been here for 35 plus years. You'll see her rate, her salary. Same thing with the town manager. Town manager's a contract employee, hiring date January 5th. Salary for FY '27. And then HR stipend, in case anyone doesn't know what that is, that the clerk does the onboarding for all of our new employees, so that's the stipend that she gets. Then we look at level service. Level service is pretty much the same. We have the administrative assistant, which is a bylaw. We have the town manager, which is contractual, and the HR stipend. Now, revenues. This is, okay, we got some money coming in.
Here we go.
EV charges, a whopping, in FY '25, we took in $1,513. Liquor licenses, which are licenses and permits, we took in FY '25, $28,750, and those are actuals, that's why we use the 25. Garage licenses, $5,250, common bitch licenses, $2,000, auto dealer licenses, $5,375, amusement device, $200, peddler permits, $1,000, parking fines, $359. Seems low, but I guess we don't, there's no meters, so.
What's a peddler permit?
Peddlers, for instance, so in order to sell stuff on, in the town, you have to get a peddler's, it's called a hawker peddler's license, actually. Going back to the old days when people had the monkey and the Gertie, and they would go out and they'd have sharpening knives or things like that. So you have to get a license. You can either get a state license to allow you to go to all 351 cities and towns, you still have to check in with the building department to make sure there aren't any restricted areas. So we have some people that come in, don't get a state license, but want to just get a local license. And they may be people that come and sell stuff at the parade, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. They might be people that sell things at Little League, football, baseball, anything like that. So we took in a whopping in FY '25, but every cent counts, $44,447. Okay.
Do you think if we raise these fees by, whatever, something that's, well, do we raise the fees, sorry. Do we raise the fees by what every single thing we've looked at for the last, 3 months has been raised?
Do we? We have to take a look at it. It's not something willy-nilly just because we don't just say, well, Jesus, the budget's short, we're gonna jack up those fees to try to, it's not the process that we do. So for instance, like ambulance fees hadn't gone up in like 3 or 4 years, so the chief took a look at those and we were down. I don't wanna be at the top, I don't wanna be at the bottom. It's a service we have to provide. It's one of those things, no pun intended, you have to bleed, but I don't wanna be hemorrhaging. So you adjust those so that you're competitive with the surrounding communities. About 65% of all ambulance runs are Medicare, Medicaid, and those are capped at $750. The other 35%, you or I or anyone that has health insurance, you pay the full freight on something like that. We look and try to be competitive with, a lot of our fees are set by statute, but, liquor fees, you could take a look and raise those. The problem is you're penalizing the small business owner and.
I just didn't know if, my question was more, and I appreciate all
Yep.
that.
Oh.
It's just more of a, we just looked at a budget from 22 to 27, that's gone up 100%, basically. And if none of these fees ever change, I get it. I'm just saying, like, at some point, someone should probably look at it.
No, we do. We look
Yeah,
at them
there you
all,
go.
and it's important to be
Yeah,
competitive,
yeah.
but not price people out.
Oh, I think one of the things in your first page here, we need more businesses in here,
Yes,
because they pay taxes.
they do. And, it's one of the things. So I did have a meeting with Tim Cahill, who is South Shore Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to get a chamber going here. I didn't put that in there.
Yeah.
Glad you brought that up, because when I first got here, he reached out to me, and I want to,
Yeah.
generate some enthusiasm with our businesses. I want our businesses to expand. I want to have opportunities for those businesses, restaurants, clean industry. So we'll continue to work on that also. Okay. We'll go to do the expenses. Yep, I got the right chart. Okay. You see selectmen salary, the top there, total salaries. Then we get into expenses. Arc of the South Shore, FY '26, we gave $2,500. That's a vote at town meeting. It will be on the warrant. Health imperatives, they got $5,000 in FY '26. They provide services to our residents and a number of residents in different communities. And they go to communities to try to get money to offset their budget. Landfill monitoring, FY '27. I'm waiting for an update for that, but right now, we've plugged in the 45,000. Then we have, there's no police chief search committee. Auditing and accounting, the expense, both level funded and level service, that doesn't change. And that's one of those things you have to do. You have to do the audit, so that's 54,000.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't there a conversation saying when you and Scott were here at the same time, there was going to be, obviously we were double paying? Where
Yeah.
is that in this?
That is in FY '26
Correct.
I was
expenses.
just trying to
Yeah.
look to see if it was there.
Yeah, it is.
So
I was
it's,
working- yeah,
it'll
so
be, I assume, Andrew, it accounted for in the FY '26 actual,
Yes.
which we don't have on this chart
Okay.
that we're
We'll
looking
need
at.
a year-end transfer from you
Yes.
guys.
Yeah, okay, that's,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not an incredible amount of money, but.
no, it's 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Let's see, other expenses.
Quick point to
Yes,
your, to the auditing and accounting line, your comment was we have to do it. If the state legislature is any example, no, we don't.
That's, yeah, not going to touch that one. Yeah. Thank you. well,
I mean, if we
So
all
maybe
just
we could,
acted like
maybe
that,
we
right?
could save some money that way.
Save some money, we
just-
could, that's right.
Just refusing to do it.
Yep.
That would affect the bond.
Bond rating, because that's one of the things, so they do look, Andrew.
I was not serious in,
No.
in my
But
commentary.
it's-
In case anyone watching this at
Finance
any
committee's
point
gone
ever
rogue.
That's serious.
was,
Yeah.
is considering, I was not serious
No,
in that.
and I think our relatives, I think our residents expect us to
Yes.
comply with laws. We all take oaths and have to uphold
Even
those.
if you vote on them.
Again,
Yes.
So, telephone, charge, $650. Those are cell phones. Let's see, other, purchases, 30,000. Those are things that aren't accounted anywhere else. Something breaks, we need to bring in a surveyor, we need to bring in, you have to do a title on a piece of land for something.
With most of the departments, when they're going over other purchase service, there's usually some sort of vendor or fee or contract that,
For this one, it's mostly for Sam, the website assistant,
okay,
social media person.
yep. Which for those who've been on the website in recent months or the last year or more, the website is
There's
vastly.
a lot of information,
Yes.
including stuff out on social
There's a
media.
lot of budget stuff on there on the accountant's page that anyone can go and look at, but it's much easier to get to and find than it used to be.
That's correct.
She used to be paid out of ARPA, but
Yeah.
that money is gone now, so she's now in the budget.
And she does a great job. She was invaluable, handling the blizzard with the residents, getting information out there, letting the residents know that the senior center was available, people had to go there. And then, any of our meetings, we have the Rockland, Abington Water's got a meeting coming up. We're getting that out to people so that people know about that. It's important, all the boards and commissions across work really hard. When they have some important, we want to make sure that residents show up because those are the types of meetings you want people to go to. You can learn about things, ask questions, and be well informed. So it's incumbent upon us to get the information out there. Also incumbent upon some of us in government to make sure that we actually get the people there. Let's see, office supplies. Those are office supplies. That includes, does that include the paper also, Andrew? I can't remember if the paper comes out of that one. Well, we do supply the photocopy of paper for all of Town Hall. Town manager professional development, we don't do any, but we do have travel. I have to go to, the Managers Association has quarterly meetings. We have the annual Mass Municipal, which I didn't go to this year because I really wasn't working here full-time and I didn't think it was fair to be charging the town for that. But those are training sessions and that's where you get your information. So we do have that. And then settlements is, anything that comes in, it's minuscule because $1,000 you're not going to be doing stuff like that. And then, so you'll see that it's relatively the same whether level funded or level services, because there's nothing really over the top in here. These are basic things that we have to cover the cost on. And you'll see that both $154,150.
Which, just to note for those following along, is a decrease of about $8,000,
Yeah.
$8,550 from the previous budget.
So we sharpened our pencils. Salary of wages, temporary employees, you'll see it's the same, it's 3,000. Finance committee salaries,
Hold on, we're supposed to be getting paid?
So this is for our secretary.
yes,
Okay.
note taker,
Does our
who does the
notes.
notes. Yeah.
Good answer.
That is a question every year when it comes up, and there are people who have not been on for seeing that
Where's my
line
check?
before.
Let's see,
Thought it was you, Matt.
finance
I get a
committee,
stipend.
finance committee expenses, 300. Reserve funds, that's
Is that our
50,000.
dues? It's
It
the
is.
Finance Committee expenses.
Or if you need to buy a thing, there's
Something that you need to
$300.
buy, there's something there, you need to buy a book, you need to
Hold on
buy,
a second.
not lunch though, unfortunately, or late night snacks.
I just pay the FinCom dues out of my budget.
That's fine.
Yeah. And then the reserve fund is just that, for anyone that's watching, if there's an emergency, it's a vote of the select board and the vote of the FinCom to be able to take money out of that, something extraordinary that come up that wasn't anticipated, wasn't budgeted for. We have, it's like a rainy day.
A few years ago, the HVAC system in the library went unexpectedly and was not anywhere in their budget to replace that. And it was the middle of the winter in the middle of the fiscal year, and so they came to us with the budget request. It's that kind of a
Correct.
thing that we have a relatively small amount of money set aside in case something comes up.
And we haven't had to tap into it. I mean, the schools had a problem at one of the elementary, the furnace was on the blink of going. They were able to get it back. Town hall furnace, we had that, it shut down, and there was a crack in it. We had to get that repaired. So things do happen.
And typically, most of the time, things like that can be covered within a maintenance budget of a
Right.
department, but there are times where they can't. They have been rare in the time that I've been on the committee that people have had to come to us with a request. But there's probably been, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 times in the
Right.
12 or so years that I've been on this committee that we've had reserve fund requests brought to us.
No, I
So it's
think-
not something that happens often.
Often, no. And then the department heads do a great job, at least in the short term, I can tell you here that I think that they're doing a great job, and they really, manage their money, manage their department, and manage their employees. Legal retainer, this covers town council and labor, so we have to have lawyers to do business, so you'll see it's the same, both in level funded and level service, because unfortunately, the cases just don't stop coming, so we have to protect the town.
This is where Greg says, can we just ask them that, can we just tell them that we're gonna pay them this amount?
We can, we do. Town office building salaries, you'll see level funded, it's 21,000, level service, it's 21,000. Expenses, electricity, you'll see that
And
electricity,
Is that contractual,
well, we,
town office building salary?
That is for the custodians.
yes,
Is,
It's a nominal
People that clean,
increase.
yeah, it's up.
Yeah.
electricity, the 600,000, you'll see it's sort
is
of.
that when we consolidated electricity, where it doubles in 25,
No, so
26?
if you look at the history for the
Oh, yeah.
electricity, we do, let me take a step back.
What happened in 25 is basically the question.
Right. That's artificially low. Back 2 administrations ago, before my time, the town entered into a net metering
Yes.
agreement where purchases solar credits at a discount. The town pays 80% of market rates, but contracted for 120% of the town's electricity needs. So there's excess there. Because we don't need the excess credits, we sell them, pass along the discount to neighboring towns. So to the extent that we can get sales of that, the electricity budget the actuals are lower, and we can transfer money to other deficits.
Or have free cash
Right.
at the end.
So the numbers that you're seeing are net of sales.
It's the actuals are net of sales.
Yeah, FY '25, that one's an actual. Okay, so that's electricity, fuel, oil, 20,000, level funded and level service. Heating is 80,000, that's the same, both level funded, level service. Building repair and maintenance, we're slightly down sort of match what we did in FY '25, about 50 grand. On maintenance, it's important that we keep the building something breaks, we want to get it fixed. Doors don't work, they got to be fixed, just about anything that needs to be fixed would come out of that. Rent and lease first and second floor copiers, can't really operate without having a copy machine. So that's 10,000 would be the same, level funded and level service. Also, office supplies, photocopy and paper, there it is. Photocopy and papers in this line, $3,000, that's for the building. And custodial supplies, so we have the custodial fee, custodial supplies, just like you think, toilet paper, paper towels, soap, disinfectant, sprays, etc. Okay, town report postage, we don't mail the town report out, so there is no postage. Printing cost, $8,300, and then we have expense budget. Andrew, you might have to help me out on this one. What is North River?
North River is
expense
the
budget?
educational collaborative that the town is a part of. It's neighboring towns in the area. It's the membership assessment.
Great, thank you. ADA does have a budget of about 150. For folks that don't know, ADA is the architectural access. So it's the community that wants to make sure that we're following state requirements, that we have handicap strikers on our door, that our doorways are certain width so that wheelchairs can get through there, special bathroom accommodations, things like that. So that's what the ADA committee does. This is their expense account if they need to buy anything. And finally, liability insurance, $825,000. That protects all the elected officials, any of the services that we need, just like property, all of that stuff.
Do we ever pay out on that?
In the
Did they ever pay out on
in the
that?
2 months that I've been here, we had to pay out,
No, not you, So is it-
The insurance
The insurance company.
company.
if we sued and then somebody.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in the last 5 years.
I would have to defer to Andrew on that, not being here.
I don't think we've suffered any major losses. There have been a couple of vehicles, cruisers getting into accidents, that sort of thing.
Cruiser? I'm saying it's a lot to pay for a chair. I'm not saying not to do it, but
We
over
do,
5 years.
we do have a lot
Yeah.
of municipal buildings that it does take care of.
That have to be insured, so yeah, so all the buildings,
You couldn't self-insure it?
no.
Yeah?
One building, the new high school's over 100 million. If you want to roll the dice on that, I would recommend not.
Yeah.
But, it's
it's
a cost of doing
liability
business,
insurance.
unfortunately.
One
Just like-
employee does something that they shouldn't do.
Well, one elected official violates somebody's constitutional rights, yeah.
That's,
Town's liable and that person
Really?
is personally liable. Doesn't matter if they're insured with liability insurance.
building inspector, and,
It's worth it.
Okay, and
I'm just thinking of getting this, how to get this
yeah.
budget
Golf,
done.
golf.
no, always, it's always a good idea.
Worth a shot.
And then finally, the highlight of is the pie chart. And, it's important to know, you'll see it's in the appropriate green, and,
Might be my third favorite pie chart.
okay, and you'll see that salaries represent 52%, expenses 27%, and benefit allocations 21%. Thank you, Andrew, for this chart. Questions?
Benefit allocation being benefits.
Health insurance, all
Right,
that.
so we take the employee benefits section of budget and then portion it out based on the department's budget, just to get a
So just
all-in
Pointing out for
representation.
those who are watching, our employee expense is not just the salary, but the salary and the benefits, which makes up
The package.
79% of, 73% of the town manager department spending. So
Thank you, sir.
when people are looking at a potential override versus cuts, and the comment always comes to, oh, you're just saying you're going to cut people as a fear-mongering thing. You should just cut your expenses. As you can see on a pie chart like this, there's the vast majority of the town's expenses are salary and benefits.
And that, Mr. Chairman, is true in every single city and town
Yep.
around us and in the Commonwealth. It is salary-driven. We're a service-oriented agency, and that's what we do. In order to do that, it's really bodies. Maybe 50 years from now, we might have robots doing some of that, but right now, it's the personal touch. So you have to have the employees, you have to have teachers in classrooms, you have to have, a finance director, treasurer to manage the money, town manager to manage the departments, all of that stuff. But we're not top heavy, and we're not flush with employees. When you walk around, I invite people to come in, come in the building, walk around, look at the departments, look inside. There's more desks than there are people. And, I'm not saying that that's not a bad thing. I think that we're very lean. And I think that people work very well. We get a lot of stuff done. Sometimes it may take longer, less bodies, fewer people doing it, so there is some backlog sometime. But we get the job done, and people are doing the job. And, my role is to, keep the ball moving, making sure that we're meeting our deadlines, our statutory requirements. And at the same time, I want our employees to be happy and feel appreciated and, liked and all of those things that we intrinsically like.
Questions? Everybody completely burnt out at this point? Quarter of 10?
I'm just getting my second wind. I had a cup of coffee before the
I
meeting.
have ADD, so I
Oh, okay.
I
So
checked out like a half hour.
Oh, okay. Wait a second, you didn't listen to my presentation?
I was trying, but there's only so much.
I listened for him.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Knock out all this stuff.
Okay, listen, if people have questions, 24/7, my cell phone's there, call me, weekends, nighttime, I'm usually here, so you probably better chance of reaching me here, but, Friday nights, if
Even
you have
answers
phone.
voicemails.
Yes, yeah. It's important to do that. Even answer the phone, I shocked someone. I picked up the phone was ringing.
So
Nancy
he
was
called me back.
Yeah.
Like, he said, sorry, I didn't have the password to my voicemail. It was like
Right.
5 days later or something.
Yeah,
Like, there you go, that's nice.
yeah. But I answered the phone, the person was shocked that they actually got the town. They weren't calling for the town manager, but they were pretty impressed to get the town, and they couldn't come up with a question to ask me, which was funny, but, okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything.
All right, moving quickly, liaison reports. Nope. As I mentioned, there's no correspondence. We have no meeting minutes to review. Next week, we will be meeting to go over the amounts and vote on the amounts for the override for the level service budget.
Is that our last meeting or do we continue
We
meeting?
will continue to meet.
What do we, all right,
We'll
never
have,
mind. I don't-
we'll have, we still need to get the warrant for actual town meeting with all of the articles for town meeting, and we need to go over and provide recommendations on every single item. We need to get the level funded budget completely finalized before we make a vote and recommendation on both the level funded and level service budgets. But what we're doing next week is providing a vote on the amounts for the overrides, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So just on the amounts, not on any recommendations from us on it. So we need to still go over everything that we will do at town meeting and
That makes sense.
still
I forgot about that part.
continue to refine and finalize the budget for town meeting before we vote on that, what our recommendation is. And that will be an interesting vote this year, because we'll be voting on two different things.
And I'm working on the warrant as we speak. I've got it all framed in and putting all the pertinent information. Hope to have that completed by the end of the week. This is just this is the verbiage. I just have to plug the numbers in for the override questions. I actually picked this up because you had asked the question. I was going to show you what it looks like, and then you can see the town hall and list out the departments, the sections.
That's a little language.
So that was a good question.
It wasn't hopeful, it was surprised.
Yes, no.
I wanted to make my tone clear.
There's still a lot more for
Yeah.
us to do before town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
So we will continue to meet.
3:25, what are we meeting?
We are meeting the 18th, and we will also meet the 25th. What our agenda will be on the 25th is not yet fully determined. There's a tentative agenda posted online for the 25th, because I got to that earlier, but,
I mean, I might be able to get online.
okay. Greg's going to be away that time, so he'll be. Note to Kevin Tachi, if he's watching the recording of this, we will need Zoom on the
Yeah.
25th.
I'll need it on the 18th.
Chris needs it next week on the 18th. Many thanks to Abington Cam for always providing us with what they need. While giving thanks to employees and departments of the town of Abington, I would be remiss if I did not give great thanks to Sergeant Marquardt and the Abington Police Department. If you were not aware, Sergeant rescued someone from the train tracks yesterday. I think it was yesterday.
Was
Sometime in the
Saturday,
past
yep.
few days. And the department put a video on their
6:15 in the morning.
site about it. Someone who was having mental health concerns and was on the train tracks. And at risk to his personal health and life, Sergeant went and helped get her off of the track and covered her while the train went by, mere feet away from them. So many, many thanks. It's the kind of people who work here in Abington. So,
And who we want to keep working here.
yes.
Yes.
All right. Anything further for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion from Greg to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second from Floyd, who narrowly got in ahead of Abby.
Literally
Have to-
from everyone.
Abby's going to have to be faster next week to get that in. Any discussion?
No.
Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, we are adjourned. Thank you and see you next week.